All right, we are now live streaming, and let me just get us recording. Hi, I'm Paul Sugarman with the Instant Shakespeare Company, and today we are going to be reading the poems of William Shakespeare, the longer poems, Venus and Adonis, The Rape of Lucrece, and The Phoenix and the Turtle. And so we have various readers here. If you want to introduce yourselves, and then we'll just begin. Jennifer.
I am Jennifer Finker. I'm in Houston, Texas. Thank you.
I'm Sheila Spencer. I'm in Queens, New York.
Eleanor.
I'm Eleanor Elizabeth Foreman. I'm in Manhattan, New York.
Okay, and I think we have Michael Gardner who will be joining us later. And if anybody comes in as an attendee and they want to participate, if they raise their hand, I think we have an attendee, but I'm not familiar with them, so I assume they're just here to listen. So anyways, we just are going to basically just take turns reading it. I'm not going to be reading because I'm delivering my mail, but we'll basically do like about 2 pages per person, and then go and then switch off. And if a stanza ends at the bottom of a page, they'll continue and complete the stanza, and then the next person will do it. So I think, as I say, Michael will be joining us later. And so, does anybody have any questions before we begin?
Michael is here without a camera, apparently.
Turned it off.
What?
Eleanor, he turned it off.
Michael is here. Yeah, but he had to go feed his cat, so he will probably be back for that. So let's just since in the starting with the people who were here, why don't we start with Jennifer, Sheila, Eleanor, and then Michael is the order, and then you just keep going. So I'm just going to read Venus and Adonis, just the introduction. There's some Latin quote, which I'm not going to read, but it has the little dedication at the beginning. To the Right Honorable Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton and Baron of Titchfield. Right Honorable, I know not how I shall offend in dedicating my unpolished lines to your lordship, nor how the world will censure me for choosing so strong a prop to support so weak a burthen. Only if your honor seem but pleased, I account myself highly praised, and vow to take advantage of all idle hours till I have honored you with some graver labor. But if the first heir of my invention prove deformed, I shall be sorry it had so noble a godfather, and never after ere so barren a land, for fear it may yield me so bad a harvest. I leave it to your honorable survey and your honor to your heart's content, which may always answer your only wish and the world's hopeful expectation, your honors in all duty, William Shakespeare. And now Venus and Adonis.
Even as the sun with purple-colored face has ta'en his last leave of the weeping morn, rose-cheeked Adonis hied unto the chase. Hunting he loved, but love he laughed to scorn. Sick-thoughted Venus makes a maid unto him, and like a bold-faced suitor begins to woo him. Thrice fairer than myself, thus she began, the field's chief flower, sweet above compare, stained to all nymphs, more lovely than a man, more white and red than doves or roses are. Nature that made thee with herself at strife saith that the world hath ending with thy life. Vouchsafe thou wonder to alight thy steed, and rein his proud head to the saddle bow. If thou wilt deign this favor, for thy meed 1,000 honey secrets shalt thou know. Here come and sit where never serpent hisses, and being set, I'll smother thee with kisses. And yet not cloy thy lips with low society, but rather famished them amid their plenty, making them red and pale with fresh variety. 10 kisses, short as one long as 20. A summer's day will seem an hour but short, being wasted in such time beguiling sport. With this, she seizeth on his sweating palm the president of pith and livelihood, and trembling in her passion, calls it balm, earth's sovereign salve to do a goddess good. Being so enraged, desire doth lend her force courageously to pluck him from his horse. Over one arm the lusty coursers reigned, under her other was the tender boy, who blushed and pouted in a dull disdain, with leaden appetite, unapt to toy. She red and hot as coals of glowing fire, he red for shame, but frosty in desire.
The studded bridle on a ragged bough nimbly she fastens. Oh, how quick is love! The steed is stalled up, and even now to tie the rider she begins to prove. Backward she pushed him as she would be thrust, and governed him in strength, though not in lust. So soon was she along as he was down, each leaning on their elbows and their hips. Now doth she stroke his cheek, now doth he frown, and gins to chide, but soon she stops his lips, and kissing speaks with lustful language broken. If thou wilt chide, thy lips shall never open. He burns with bashful shame, and she with her tears doth quench the maiden burning of his cheeks. Then with her windy sighs and golden hairs to fan, and blows them dry again she seeks. He saith she is immodest, blames her miss. What follows more, she murthers with a kiss. Even as an empty eagle, sharp by fast, tires with her beak on feathers, flesh and bone, shaking her wings, devouring all in haste, till either gorge be stuffed or prey be gone. Even so she kissed his brow, his cheek, his chin, and where she ends, she doth anew begin. Forced to content, but never to obey, panting he lies, and breatheth in her face. She feedeth on the steam as on a prey, and calls it heavenly moisture, air of grace, wishing her cheeks were gardens full of flowers, so they were dewed with such distilling showers.
Look how a bird lies tangled in a net, so fastened in her arms Adonis lies. Pure shame and odd resistance made him fret, which bred more beauty in his angry eyes. Rain added to a river that is rank, perforce will force it overflow the bank. Still she entreats, and prettily entreats, for to a pretty ear she tunes her tale. Still is he sullen, still he lowers and frets, twixt crimson shame and anger ashy pale. Being red she loves him best, and being white her best is better with the more delight. Look how he can, she cannot choose but love, and by her fair immortal hand she swears from his soft bosom never to remove till he take truce with her contending tears, which long have reigned, making her cheeks all wet, and one sweet kiss shall pay this comptless debt. Upon this promise did he raise his chin like a dive-tapper, peering through a wave, who being looked on, quick as ducks as quickly in. So offers he to give what she did crave, but when her lips were ready for his pay, he winks and turns his lips another way. Never did passenger in summer's heat more thirst for drink than she for this good turn. Her help she seeks, but help she cannot get. She bathes in water, yet her fire must burn. Oh, pity can she cry, flint-hearted boy, 'tis but a kiss I beg, why art thou coy? I have been wooed as I entreat thee now, even by the stern and direful god of war, whose sinewy neck in battle ne'er did bow, who conquers where he comes in every jar. Yet hath he been my captive and my slave, and begged for that which thou unasked shalt have.
Over my altars hath he hung his lance, his battered shield, his uncontrolled crest, and for my sake hath learnt to sport and dance, to toy, to wanton, dally, smile, and jest. scorning his churlish drum and ensign red, making my armies his field, his tent, my bed. Thus he that overruled, I overswayed, leading him prisoner in a red rose chain. Strong tempered steel his stronger strength obeyed. Yet was he servile to my coy disdain. Oh, be not proud, nor brag not of thy might, for mastering her that foiled the god of fight. Touch but my lips with those fair lips of thine, though mine be not so fair, yet are they red. The kiss shall be thine own as well as mine. What seest thou in the ground? Hold up thy head. Look in my eyeballs. There thy beauty lies. Then why not lips on lips, since eyes in eyes? Art thou ashamed to kiss? Then wink again, and I will wink. So shall the day seem right. Night. Love keeps his revels where there are but twain. Be bold to play, our sport is not in sight. Those blue veined violets whereon we lean never can blab, nor know not what we mean. The tender spring upon thy tempting lip shows thee unripe, yet mayst thou well be tasted. Make use of time, let not advantage slip. Beauty within itself should not be wasted. Fair flowers that are not gathered in their prime rot and consume themselves in little time. Were I hard favored, foul, or wrinkled old, ill nurtured, crooked, churlish, harsh in voice, or worn, despised, rheumatic and cold, thick-sighted, barren, lean, and lacking juice, the mice note thou pause. Forth I were not for thee, but having no defects, why doest thou abhor me?
Thou canst not see one wrinkle in my brows. Mine eyes are gray and bright and quick in turning. My beauty, as the spring, doth yearly grow. My flesh is soft and plump, my marrow burning. My smooth, moist hand, were it with thy hand felt, would in thy palm dissolve or seem to melt. Bid me discourse, I will enchant thine ear, or like a fairy trip upon the green, or like a nymph with long dishevelled hair dance on the sands, and yet no footing seen. Love is a spirit all compact of fire, not gross to sink, but light, and will aspire. Witness this primrose bank whereon I lie. These forceless flowers, like sturdy trees, support me. Two strengthless doves will draw me through the sky, from morn till night, even where I list to sport me. Is love so light, sweet boy? And may it be that thou shouldst think it heavy unto thee? Is thine own heart to thine own face affected? Can thy right hand seize love upon thy left? Then woo thyself. Be of thyself rejected. Steal thine own freedom and complain on theft. Narcissus so himself forsook, and died to kiss his shadow in the brook. Torches are made to light, jewels to wear, dainties to taste, fresh beauty for the use, herbs for their smell, and sappy plants to bear. Things growing to themselves are growth's abuse. Seeds spring from seeds, and beauty breedeth beauty. Thou wast begot, to get is thy duty. Upon the earth's increase, why shouldst thou feed, unless the earth with thy increase be fed? By law of nature thou art bound to breed, that thine may live when thou thyself art dead. And so, in spite of death, thou dost survive, in that thy likeness still is left alive.
By this the lovesick queen began to sweat, for where they lay the shadow had forsook them, and Titan, tired in the midday heat, with burning eye did hotly overlook them, wishing Adonis had his team to guide, so he were like him and by Venus' side. And now Adonis, with a lazy sprite, and with a heavy, dark, disliking eye, his lowering brows, o'erwhelming his fair sight, like misty vapors when they blot the sky, so ring his cheeks cries, Fie no more of love! The sun doth burn my face, I must remove. Ay me, quoth Venus, young and so unkind, what bare excuses makest thou to be gone? I'll sigh celestial breath, whose gentle wind shall cool the heat of this descending sun. I'll make a shadow for thee of my ears, If they burn too, I'll quench them with my tears. The sun that shines from heaven shines but warm, and lo, I lie between that sun and thee. The heat I have from thence doth little harm. Thine eye burneth forth the fire that burneth me. And were I not immortal, life were done between this heavenly and earthly sun. Art thou obdurate, flinty, hard as steel? Nay, more than flint, for stone at rain relenteth. Art thou a woman's son, and canst not feel what 'tis to love? How want of love tormenteth? Oh, had thy mother borne so hard a mind, she had not brought forth thee, but died unkind. What am I, that thou shouldst contemn me this? On or what great danger dwells upon my suit? What were thy lips the worse for one poor kiss? Speak fair, but speak fair words, or else be mute. Give me one kiss, I'll give it thee again, and one for interest, if thou wilt have twain.
Fie, lifeless picture, cold and senseless stone, well painted idol, image dull and dead, statue contenting but the eye alone, thing like a man, but of no woman bred. Thou art no man, though of a man's complexion, for men will kiss even by their own direction. This said, impatience chokes her pleading tongue, and swelling passion doth provoke a pause. Red cheeks and fiery eyes blaze forth her wrong. Being judge in love, she cannot right her cause. And now she weeps, and now she fain would speak, and now her sobs do her intendments break. Sometimes she shakes her head, and then his hand. Now gazeth she on him, now on the ground. Sometime her arms enfold him like a band. She would, he will not in her arms be bound. And when from thence he struggles to be gone, she locks her little fingers one in one. Fondly she saith, since I have hemmed thee here within the circuit of this ivory pale, I'll be a park, and thou shalt be my deer. Feed where thou wilt, on mountain or in dale. Graze on my lips, and if those hills be dry, stray lower where the pleasant fountains lie. Within this limit is relief enough, sweet bottom grass and high delightful plain, round rising hillocks, brakes obscure and rough, to shelter thee from tempest and from rain. Then be my dear, since I am such a park, no dog shall rouse thee, though 1,000 bark. At this Adonis smiles as in disdain, then in each cheek appears a pretty dimple. Love made those hollows. If himself were slain, he might be buried in a tomb so simple. For knowing well, if there he came to lie, why there love lived, and there he could not die.
These lovely caves, these round enchanting pits, opened their mouths to swallow Venus' liking. Being mad before, how doth she now for wit? Struck dead at first, what needs a second striking? Poor queen of love, in thine own law forlorn, to love a cheek that smiles at thee in scorn. Now, which way shall she turn? What shall she say? Her words are done, her woes the more increasing. The time is spent, her object will away, and from her twinning arms doth urge releasing. Pity, she cries, some favor, some remorse. Away he springs and hasteth to his horse. But lo, from forth a copse that neighbors by, a breeding jennet, lusty, young, and proud, Adonis trampling courser doth espy, and forth she rushes, snorts, and neighs aloud. The strong-necked steed, being tied unto a tree, breaketh his rein, and to her straight goes he. Imperiously he leaps, he neighs, he bounds, and now his woven girths he breaks asunder. The bearing earth with his hard hoof he wounds, whose hollow womb resounds like heaven's thunder. The iron bit he crusheth 'tween his teeth, controlling what he was controlled with. His ears are pricked, his braided hanging mane upon his compassed crest now stands on end. His nostrils drink the air, and forth again as from a furnace vapors doth he send. His eye, which scornfully glisters like fire, shows his hot courage and his high desire. Sometime he trots as if he told the steps with gentle majesty and modest pride, Anon he rears upright, curvets, and leaps, as who should say, Lo, thus my strength is tried, and this I do to captivate the eye of the fair breeder that is standing by.
What recketh he his rider's angry stir, his flattering holla, or his stand, I say? What cares he now for curb or pricking spur, for rich comparisons or trappings gay? He sees his love, and nothing else he sees, for nothing else with his proud sight agrees. Look, when a painter would surpass the life in limning out a well-proportioned steed, his art with nature's workmanship is strife, as if the dead the living should exceed. So did this horse excel a common one in shape, in color, courage, pace, and bone. Round-hoofed, short-jointed, fetlocked, shag and long, broad breast, full eye, small head and nostril wide, high crest, short ears, straight legs and passing strong, thick mane, thick tail, broad buttock, tender hide. Look what a horse should have he did not lack, save a proud rider on so proud a bark. Sometimes he scuds far off, and there he stares, and anon he starts at stirring of a feather, to bid the wind a base he now prepares, and where he run or fly they know not whether, for through his mane and tail the high wind sings, fanning the hairs, who wave like feathered wings. He looks upon his love, and neighs unto her. She answers him, as if she knew his mind, being proud as females are to see him woo her. She puts on outward strangeness, seems unkind, spurns at his love and scorns the heat he feels, beating his kind embracements with her heels. Then, like a melancholy malcontent, he veils his tail, that like a falling bloom cool shadow to his melting buttock lent. He stamps and bites the poor flies in his fume. His love, perceiving how he was enraged, grew kinder, and his fury was assuaged.
His testy master goeth about to take him, when lo, the unbacked breeder, full of fear, jealous of catching, swiftly doth forsake him with her the horse, and left Adonis there. As they were mad unto the wood they hie them, outstripping crows that strive to overfly them. All swollen with chaffing, down Adonis sits, banning his boisterous and unruly beast. And now the happy season once more fits, that lovesick love by pleading may be blessed. For lovers say the heart hath treble wrong when it is barred the aidance of the tongue. An oven that is stopped or river stayed burneth more hotly, swelleth with more rage. So if concealed sorrow may be said, free vent of words love's fire doth assuage. But when the heart's attorney once is mute, the client breaks as desperate in his suit. He sees her coming and begins to glow, even as a dying coal revives with wind, and with his bonnet hides his angry brow, looks on the dull earth with disturbed mind, taking no notice that she is so nigh, for all askance he holds her in his eye. Oh, what a sight it was wistly to view, how she came stealing to the wayward boy, to note the fighting conflict of her hue, how white and red each other did destroy. But now her cheek was pale, and by it flashed forth fire as lightning from the sky. Now is she just before him as he sat, and like a lowly lover down she kneels. With one fair hand she heaveth up his hat, her other tender hand his fair cheek feels. His tenderer cheek receives her softer hand's print, as apt as new fallen snow takes any dint.
Oh, what a war of looks was then between them, her eyes petitioners to his eyes suing. His eyes saw her eyes as they had not seen them. Her eyes wooed still, his eyes disdained the wooing, and all this dumb play had his acts made plain with tears which chorus like her eyes did rain. Full gently now she takes him by the hand, a lily prisoned in a gale of snow. or ivory in an alabaster band, so white a friend ingirt, so white a foe. This beauteous combat, wilful and unwilling, showed like two silvered doves that sit a-billing. Once more the engine of her thoughts began. O fairest mover of this mortal round, would thou wert as I am, and I a man, my heart all whole as thine, thy heart my wound. For one sweet look thy help I would assure thee, though nothing but my body's bane would cure thee. Give me my hand, saith he. Why dost thou feel it? Give me my heart, said she, and thou shalt have it. Oh, give it me, lest thy hard heart do steal it, and being steeled, soft sighs can never grave it. Then love's deep groans I never shall regard, because Adonis' heart hath made mine hard. For shame, he cries, let go, and let me go. My day's delight is past, my horse is gone, and 'tis your fault I am bereft him so. I pray you hence, and leave me here alone, for all my mind, my thought, my busy care is how to get my palfrey from the mare. Thus she replies, thy palfrey, as he should, welcomes the warm approach of sweet desire. Affection is a coal that must be cooled, else suffered it will set the heart on fire. The sea hath bounds, but deep desire hath none. Therefore, no marvel though thy horse be gone.
How like a jade he stood tied to the tree, servilely mastered with a leathern rein. But when he saw his love, his youth's fair fee, he held no such petty bondage in disdain, throwing the base thong from his bending crest, enfranchising his mouth, his back, his breast. Who sees his true love in her naked bed, teaching the sheets a whiter hue than white, but when his glutton eye so full hath fed, his other agents aim at like delight. Who is so faint that dares not be so bold to touch the fire, the weather being cold? Let me excuse thy courser, gentle boy, and learn of him, I heartily beseech thee, to take advantage on presented joy. Though I was dubbed, yet his proceedings teach thee. Oh, learn to love, the lesson is but plain, and once made plain, never lost again. I know not love, quoth he, nor will not know it, unless it be a bore, and then I chase it. 'Tis much to borrow, and I will not owe it. I love to love is love, but to disgrace it, for I've heard it is a life in death that laughs and weeps, and all but with a breath. Who wears a garment shapeless and unfinished? Who plucks the bud before one leaf put forth? If springing things be any jot diminished, they wither in their prime, prove nothing worth. The colt that's backed and burdened, being young, loseth his pride, and never waxes strong. You hurt my hand with ringing. Let us part, and leave this idle theme, this bootless chat. Remove your siege from my unyielding heart. To love's alarm it will not ope the gate. Dismiss your vows, your feigned tears, your flattery, for where a heart is hard, they make no battery.
What canst thou talk? Quoth she. Hast thou a tongue? Oh, what thou hast not, or I had no hearing. Thy mermaid's voice hath done me double wrong. I had my load before, now pressed with bearing. Melodious discord, heavenly tune, harsh sounding, ears sweet, deep sleep music, and heart's deep sore wounding. Had I no eyes but ears, my ears would love that inward beauty and invisible, or were I deaf, the outward parts would move, each part in me that were but sensible. Though neither eyes nor ears to hear nor see, yet should I be in love by touching thee. Say that the sense of living were bereft me, and that I could not see, nor hear, nor touch, and nothing but the very smell were left me, yet would my love to thee be still as much. For the still tree of thy face excelling comes breath perfumed that breatheth love by smelling. But oh, what banquet wert thou to the taste, being nurse and feeder of the other four? Would they not wish the feast might ever last, and bid suspicion double lock the door, lest jealousy that sour unwelcome guest should by stealing and disturb the feast. Once more the ruby-colored portal opened, which to his speech did honey passage yield, like a red morn that ever yet betokened, wrack to the seamen, tempest to the field, sorrow to shepherds, woe unto the birds, gusts and foul flaws to herdmen and to herds. This ill presaged wisely she marketh, even as the rain is hushed before it raineth, when or as the wolf doth grin before he barketh, or as the berry breaks before it staineth, or like the deadly bullet of a gun, his meaning struck her ere his words begun.
And at his look she flatly falleth down, for looks kills love, and love by looks reviveth. A smile recures the wounding of a frown. But blessed bankrout that by love so thriveth, the silly boy, believing she is dead, claps her pale cheek till clapping makes it red. And all amazed break off his late intent, for sharply he did think to reprehend her, which cunning love did wittily prevent. Fair fall the wit that can so well defend her. For on the grass she lies as she were slain, till his breath breatheth life in her again. He wrings her nose, he strikes her on the cheeks, he bends her fingers, holds her pulses hard, he chafes her lips, 1,000 ways he seeks to mend the hurt that his unkindness marred. He kisses her, and she by her good will never rise, so he will kiss her still. The night of sorrow now is turned to day. Her two blue windows faintly she upheaveth, like the fair sun when in his fresh array he cheers the morn and all the earth relieveth. And as the bright sun glorifies the sky, so is her face illumined with her eye, whose beams upon his hairless face affixed, as if from thence they borrowed all their shine. Were never four such lamps together mixed, had not his clouded with his brows repine, but hers, which through the crystal tears gave light, shone like the moon in water seen by night. Oh, where am I, quoth she, in earth or heaven, or in the ocean, drenched, or in the fire? What hour is this, or morn, or weary even? Do I delight to die, or life desire? But now I lived, and life was death's annoy, but now I died, and death was lively joy.
Oh, thou didst kill me once again. Thy eyes show rude tutor, that hard heart of thine hath taught them scornful tricks and such disdain, that they have murdered this poor heart of mine, and these mine eyes true leaders to their queen, but for thy piteous lips no more had seen. Long may they kiss each other for this cure. Oh, never let their crimson liveries wear, and as they last their verdure still endure, to drive infection from the dangerous year, that the stargazers, having writ on death, may say, the plague is banished by thy breath. Pure lips, sweet seals, in my soft lips imprinted, what bargains may I make still to be sealing? To sell myself I can be well contented, so thou wilt buy and pay and use good dealing, which purchase if thou make for fear of slips, so thy seal manual on my wax red lips, 1,000 kisses buys my heart from me, and pay them at thy leisure, one by one. What is 1,000 touches unto thee? Are they not quickly told and quickly gone? Save for non-palment, that the death shall be double. Is 2,000 kisses such a trouble? Fair queen, quoth he, if any love you owe me, measure my strangeness with my unripe years. Before I know myself, seek not to know me. No fisher but the ungrown fry forbears. The mellow plum doth fall, the green sticks fast, or being early plucked is sour tasted. Look, the world's comforter with weary gait, his day's hot task hath ended in the west. The owl, night's herald, shrieks, 'tis very late. The sheep are gone to fold, birds to their nest, and cold black clouds that shadow heaven's light do summon us to part and bid good night.
Now let me say good night, and so say you. If you will say so, you shall have a kiss. Good night, quoth she, and ere he says adieu, the honey fee of parting tendered is. Her arms do lend his neck a sweet embrace, and corporate then they seem, face grows to face, till breathless he disjoined and backward drew the heavenly moisture of that sweet coral mouth, whose precious taste her thirsty lips well knew, whereon they surfeit, yet complain on drought. He was with her plenty pressed, she faint with dearth, their lips together glued fall to the earth. Now quick desire hath caught the yielding prey, and glutton-like she feeds, yet never filleth. Her lips are conquerors, his lips obey, paying what ransom the insulter willeth, whose vulture thought doth pitch the price so high, that she will draw his lips rich treasure dry. And having felt the sweetness of the spoil, with blindfold fury she begins to forage. Her face doth reek and smoke, her blood doth boil, and careless lust stirs up a desperate courage, planting oblivion, beating reason back, forgetting shame's pure blush and honor's rack. Hot, faint, and weary, and with her heart embracing, like a wild bird being tamed with too much handling, or as the fleet-foot roe that's tired with chasing, or like the forward infant stilled with dandling. He now obeys, and now no more resisteth, while she takes all she can, not all she listeth. What wax so frozen but dissolves with tempering, and yields alas to every light impression? Things out of hope are compassed off with venturing, chiefly in love, whose leave exceeds commission. Affection faints not like a pale-faced coward, but the woe's best where most his choice is frowered.
Um, Angus, would you like to read 35, 36, and Michael 37, 38? Is this a good time for you to slip in?
When he did frown, oh, had she then gave o'er, such nectar from his lips she had not sucked. Foul words and frowns must not repel a lover. What though the rose have prickles, yet 'tis plucked. Were beauty under 20 locks kept fast, yet love breaks through, and picks them all at last. For pity now she can no more detain him. The poor fool prays her that he may depart. She is resolved no longer to restrain him, bids him farewell, and look well to her heart, the which by Cupid's bow she doth protest he carries thence, encaged in his best breast. Sweet boy, she says, this night I'll waste in sorrow, for my sick heart commands mine eyes to watch. Tells me, love's master, shall we meet tomorrow? Say, shall we? Shall we? Wilt thou make the match? He tells her, no. Tomorrow he intends to hunt the boar with certain of his friends. The boar, quoth she, or as a sudden pale, like lawn being spread upon the blushing rose, usurps her cheek. She trembles at his tail, and on his neck her yoking arms she throws. He sicketh down, still hanging by his neck. He on her belly falls, she on her back. Now is she in the very lists of love, her champion mounted for the hot encounter. All is imaginary, she doth prove. He will not manage her, although he mount her. That worse when Tantalus is her annoy, to clip Elysium and to lack her joy. Even so poor birds, deceived with painted grapes, do surfeit by the eye and pine the more. Even so she languisheth in her mishaps, as those poor birds that helpless berries saw. The warm effects which she in him finds missing, she seeks to kindle with continual kissing.
But all in vain, good queen, it will not be. She has essayed as much as may be proved. Her pleading hath deserved a greater fee. She's love, She loves, and yet she is not loved. Fie, fie, he says, you crush me, let me go, you have no reason to withhold me so. Thou hast been gone, quoth she, sweet boy, ere this, but that thou toldest me thou wouldst hunt the boar. Oh, be advised, thou knowest not what it is, with javelins point a churlish swine to gore. Whose tushes never sheathed, he wetteth still, like to a mortal butcher bent to kill. On his bow back he hath a battle set of prisky pikes that ever threat his foes. His eyes like glowworms shine when he doth fret. His snout digs sepulchres where'er he goes. Being moved, he strikes whate'er is in his way, and whom he strikes, his crooked tushes slay. His brawny sides with hairy bristles armed are better proof than thy spear's point can enter. His short, thick neck cannot be easily harmed, being airful on the lion he will enter. The thorny brambles and embracing bushes, as fearful as in part, to whom he rushes. Alas, he naught esteemed that face of thine, to which love's eyes pays tributaries gazes, nor thy soft hands, sweet lips, and crystalline, whose full perfection all the world amazes. But having the advantage, wondrous dread, who hold root these beauties as he roots the mead. Oh, let him keep his loathsome cabin still. Beauty hath naught to do with such foul friends. Come not within his danger by thy will. They that thrive well take counsel of their friends. When thou didst name the boar not to dissemble, I fear thy fortune on my joints did tremble.
Didst thou not
But
mark my
not
face? Was it not
did
white?
didst thou not
My
mark?
turn, my dear, my turn,
Uh,
dear.
no,
I let the gentleman go ahead of me.
yes, and I'm next.
After me.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Thank you. Didst thou not mark my face? Was it not white? Saw'st thou not signs of fear lurk in mine eyes? Grew I not faint, and fell I not downright within my bosom whereon thou dost lie? My boding heart pants, beats, and takes no rest, but like an earthquake shakes thee on my breast. For where love reigns, disturbing jealousy doth call himself affection's sentinel, gives false alarm, suggesteth mutiny, and in a peaceful hour doth cry, kill, kill, distempering gentle love in his desire, as air and water do abate the fire. This sour informer, this bait-breeding spy, this canker that eats up love's tender spring, this carry-tale, dissentious jealousy, that sometime true news, some false doth bring, knocks at my heart and whispers in mine ear that if I love thee, I thy death should fear, and more than so presenteth to mine eye the picture of an angry chafing boar, under whose sharp fangs on his back doth lie an as image like thyself, all stained with gore, whose blood upon the fresh flowers being shed doth make thee droop with grief and hang the head. What should I do, seeing thee so indeed, that tremble at the imagination? The thought of it doth make my faint heart bleed, and fear doth teach it divination. I prophesy thy death, my living sorrow, if thou encounter with the boar tomorrow. But if thou needst will hunt, be ruled by me, uncouple at the timorous flying hare, or at the fox which lives by subtlety, or at the roe which no encounter dare. Pursue these fearful creatures o'er the downs, and on thy well-breathed horse keep with the hounds.
And when thou hast on foot the poor blind hare, mark the poor wretch to overshed his troubles, how he outruns the wind, and with what care he cranks and crosses with 1,000 devils. The many musets through the which he goes are like a labyrinth to amaze his foes. Sometimes he runs among a flock of sheep to make the cunning hounds mistake their smell, and sometimes where earth-deluging conies keep, to stop the loud pursuers in their yell, and sometimes sorteth with a herd of deer. Danger devises shift Wit waits on fear, for there his smell with others being mingled, the hot scent snuffing hounds are driven to doubt, ceasing their clamorous cry, till they have singled with much ado the cold fault cleanly out. Then do they spend their mouths. Echo replies, and if another chase were in the skies, by this poor war, far off upon a hill, stands on his hinder legs, with listening ear to hearken if his foes pursue him still. Anon their loud alarms he doth hear, and now his grief may be compared well to one sore sick that hears the passing bell. Then shalt thou see the dew-bedabbled wretch turn and return, indenting with the way each envious briar his weary legs do scratch, each shadow makes him stop, each murmurer stay, for misery is trodden on by many, and being low never relieved by any. Lie quietly, and hear a little more. Nay, do not struggle, for thou shalt not rise, to make thee hate the hunting of the boar, unless myself thou hear'st me moralize, applying this to that, and so to the so, for love can comment upon every woe.
Where did I leave? No matter where, quoth he. Leave me, and then the story aptly ends. The night is spent. Why, what of that? Quoth she. I am, quoth he, expected of my friends. And now 'tis dark, and going I shall fall. In night, quoth she, desire sees best of all. But if thou fall, oh, then imagine this: the earth in love with thee, thy footing trips, and all is but to rob thee of a kiss. Rich praise make true men thieves, so do thy lips make modest Diane cloudy and forlorn, lest she should steal a kiss and die forsworn. Now of the stark night I perceive the reason. Cynthia for shame obscures her silver shine, till forging nature be condemned of treason, for stealing moulds from heaven that were divine, wherein she framed thee in high heaven's despite, to shame the sun by day and her by night. And therefore hath she bribed the destinies to cross the curious workmanship of nature, to mingle beauty with infirmities, and pure perfection with impure feature, making it subject to the tyranny of mad mischances and much misery, as burning fevers, agues pale and faint, like life-poisoning pestilence, and frenzies wood, the marrow-eating sickness whose attaint disorder breeds by heating of the blood, surfeits, imposthumes, grief, and damned despair, swear nature's death for framing thee so fair. And not the least of all these maladies, but in 1 minute's fight brings beauty under both favor, savor, hue, and qualities, whereat the impartial gazer late did wonder, are on the sudden wasted, thawed, and done, as mountain snow melts with the midday sun.
Does that mean now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Therefore, despite of fruitless chastity, love-lacking vestals and safe-loving nuns that on the earth would breed a scarcity, and barren dearth of daughters and of sons, be prodigal. The lamp that burns by night dries up his oil and lend the world his light. What is thy body but a swallowing grave, seeming to bury that posterity, which by the rights of time thou needst must have, if thou destroy them not in dark obscurity? If so, the world will hold thee in disdain, sith in thy pride so fair a hope is slain. So in thyself art made away, a mischief, worth, and civil home-bred strife, or theirs whose desperate hands themselves do slay, or butcher sire that reaves his son of life. Foul cankering rust the hidden treasure frets, but gold that's put to use more gold begets. Nay then, quoth the dawn, you will fall again into your idle overhandled theme. The kiss I gave you is bestowed in vain, and all in vain you strive against the stream. For by this black-faced night, desire's foul nurse, your treatise makes me like you worse and worse. If love had lent you 20,000 tongues, and every tongue more moving than your own, bewitching like the wanton mermaid's songs, yet from mine ear the tempting tune is blown. For know my heart stands armoured in mine ear, and will not let a false sound enter thee, lest the deceiving harmony should run into the quiet closure of my breast, and then my little heart were quite undone, in his bed chamber to be barred of rest. No, lady, no, my heart longs not to groan, but soundly sleeps, while now it sleeps alone.
What have you urged that I can not reprove? The path is smooth that leadeth on to danger. I hate not love, but your device in love that lends embracements unto every stranger. You do it for increase, O stranger excuse, when reason is the bawd to lust's abuse. Call it not love, for love to heaven is fled, since sweating lust on earth usurped his name, under whose simple semblance he has fed, upon fresh beauty, blotting it with blame, which the hot tyrant stains and soon bereaves, as caterpillars do the tender leaves. Love comforteth this like sunshine after rain, but lust's effect is tempest after sun. Love's gentle spring doth always fresh remain. Lust's winter comes ere summer hath begun. Love surfeits not, lust like a glutton dies. Love is all truth, lust full of forged lies. More I could tell, but more I dare not say. The text is old, the ardor is too green. Therefore, in sadness now I will away. My face is full of shame, my heart of teen. My ears that to your wanton talk attended do burn themselves for having so offended. With this he breaketh from the sweet embrace of those fair arms which bound him to her breast, and homeward through the dark laud runs apace, leaves love upon her back, deeply distressed. How a bright star shooteth from the skies, so glides he in the night from Venus' eye, which after him she darts as one on shore, gazing upon a late embarked friend, till the wild waves will have him seen no more, whose ridges with the meeting clouds contend. So do the merciless and pitchy night fold in the object that did feed her sight.
Whereat amassed is one that unaware hath dropped a precious jewel in the flood, or astonished as night wanderers often are, their light blown out in some mistrustful wood. Even so confounded in the dark she lay, having lost the fair discovery of her way. And now she beats her heart, wherein it groans that all the neighbor caves, as seeming troubled, make verbal repetition of her moans. Passion on passion deeply is redoubled. Ay me, she cries, and 20 times woe, woe, and 20 echoes 20 times cry so. She, marking them, begins a wailing note, and sings extemporally a woeful ditty, how love makes young men thrall and old men dote, how love is wise in folly, foolish, witty. Her heavy anthem still concludes in woe, and still the choir of echoes answer so. Her song was tedious and outwore the night, for lovers' hours are long, though seeming short. If pleased themselves, others, they think, delight in such like circumstance with such like sport. Their copious stories, oftentime begun, and without audience, and are never done. For who hath she to spend the night withal but idle sounds, resembling parasites, like shrill-tongued tapsters answering every call, soothing the humor of fantastic wits? She says 'tis so. They answer all 'tis so, and would say after her if she said no. Lo, here the gentle lark, weary of rest, from his moist cabinet mount upon his high, and wakes the morning, from whose silver breast the sun ariseth in his majesty. Who doth the world so gloriously behold that cedar tops and hills seem burnished gold?
Venus salutes him with this fair good morrow. O thou clear God and patron of all light, from whom each lamp and shining star doth borrow the beauteous influence that makes him bright, there lives a son that sucked an earthly mother, may lend thee light as thou dost lend to other. This said, she hasteth to a myrtle grove, musing the morning is so much o'erworn, and yet she hears no tidings of her love. She hearkens for his hounds and for his horn, anon she hears them chanted lustily, and all in haste she coasteth to the cry, and as she runs, the bushes in the way, some catch her by the neck, some kiss her face, some twined about her thigh to make her stay. She wildly breaketh from their strict embrace, like a milk doe whose swelling dugs do ache, hasting to feed her fawn hid in some brake. By this she hears the hounds are at bay, whereat she starts like one that spies an adder, wreathed up in fatal folds, just in his way, the fear whereof doth make him shake and shudder. Even so the timorous yelping of the hounds appalls her senses, and her spirit confounds, for now she knows it is no gentle chase, but the blunt boar, rough bear, or lion proud, because the cry remaineth in one place, where fearfully the dogs exclaim aloud, finding their enemy to be so cursed, they all strain curtsy, who shall clip him first. This dismal cry rings sadly in her ear, through which it enters to surprise her heart, who, overcome by doubt and bloodless fear, with cold pale weaknesses, numbs each feeling part, like soldiers when their captain once doth yield, they basely fly, and dare not stay the field.
Thus stands she in a trembling ecstasy, till cheering up her senses all dismayed, she tells them 'tis a causeless fantasy, and childish error that they are afraid, bids the leaf quaking, bids them fear no more, and with that word she spied the hunted boar, whose frothy mouth be painted all with red, like milk and blood being mingled both together, a second fear through all her sinews spread, which madly hurries her she knows not whither. This way she runs, and now she will no further, but back retires to rate the boar for murder. 1,000 spleens bear her 1,000 ways. She treads the path that she untreads again. Her more than haste is mated with delays, like the proceedings of a drunken brain, full of respects, yet not at all respecting, in hand with all things, not at all effecting. Here, kennelled in a brake, she finds a hound, and asks the weary caitiff for his master, and there another licking of his wound, 'gainst venom sores, the only sovereign plaster. And here she meets another, sadly scowling, to whom she speaks, and he replies with howling. When he has ceased his ill-resounding noise, another flat-mouthed mourner, black and grim, against the welkin volleys out his voice. Another and another answer him, clapping their proud tails to the ground below, shaking their scratched ears, bleeding as they go. Look how the world's poor people are amazed at apparitions, signs, and prodigies, whereon with fearful eyes they long hath gazed, infusing them with dreadful prophecies. So she at these sad signs draws up her breath, and sighing it again exclaims on death.
Hard-favoured tyrant, ugly, meagre, lean, hateful divorce of love, thus chides she death. Grim, grimning ghost, earth's worm, what dost thou, thou to stifle beauty and to steal his breath? Who, when he lived, his breath and beauty said, gloss on the rose, smell to the violet. If he be dead, oh no, it cannot be. Seeing his beauty, thou shouldst strike at it. Oh yes, it may thou hast no eyes to see, but hatefully at random dost thou hit. Thy mark is feeble age, but thy false dart mistakes that aim and cleaves an infant's heart. Hadst thou but bid beware, then he had spoke, and hearing him thy power had lost its power. The destinies will curse thee for this stroke. They bid thee crop a weed, thou pluck'st a flower. Love's golden arrow at him should have fled, not death's ebony heart dart to strike him dead. Dost thou drink tears that thou provokest such weeping? What may a heavy groan advantage thee? Why hast thou cast into eternal sleeping those eyes that taught all other eyes to see? Now nature cares not for thy mortal vigour, since her best work is ruined with thy rigour. Here, overcome as one of full despair, she veiled her eyelids, who, like sluices, stopped the crystal tide that from her two cheeks fair in the sweet channel of her bosom dropped. But through the floodgates breaks the silver rain, and with his strong course opens them again. Oh, how her eyes and tears did lend and borrow! Her eyes, seen in the tears, tears in her eye, both crystals, where they viewed each other's sorrow, sorrow that friendly sighs sought still to dry, but like a stormy day, now wind, now rain, sighs dry her cheeks, tears make them wet again.
Variable passions throng her constant woe, as striving who should best become her grief, all entertained at past labor so that every present sorrow seems chief. But none is best, then join they all together, like many clouds consulting for foul weather. By this far off she hears some huntsman's hollow, a nurse's song ne'er pleased her babe so well. The dire imagination she did follow, this sound of hope doth labor to expel. For now reviving joy bids her rejoice, and flatters her. It is Adonis' voice. Whereat her tears begin to turn their tide, being prisoned in her eye like pearlous in glass, yet sometimes falls an orient drop beside, which her cheek melts as scorning it should pass, to wash the foul face of the sluttish ground, who is but drunken when she seems drowned. Oh, hard believing, how, love, how strange it seems, not to believe and yet too credulous. Thy weal and woe are both of them extremes. Despair and hope make thee ridiculous. The one doth flatter thee in thoughts unlikely, in likely thoughts the other kills thee quickly. Now she unweaves the web that she hath wrought. Adonis lives, and death is not to blame. It was not she that called him aught to naught. Now she adds honors to his hateful name. She cleps him king of graves and grave for kings, imperious supreme of all mortal things. No, no, quoth she, sweet death, I did but jest. Yet pardon me, I felt a kind of fear, when as I met the boar, that bloody beast, which knows no pity, but is still severe, then, gentle shadow, trust I must confess, I railed on thee, fearing my love's decease.
Jackie, would you like to read the
Yes,
next?
I'm coming on. I'm coming on. Oh, 'tis not my fault. The boar provoked my tongue. Be wrecked on him, invisible commander. 'Tis he, foul creature, that hath done thee wrong. I did but act. He's author of thy slander. Grief hath two tongues, and never woman yet could rule them both without 10 women's wit. Thus hoping that Adonis is alive, her rash suspect she doth extenuate, and that his beauty may the better thrive. With death she humbly doth insinuate, tells him of trophies, statues, tombs, and stories, his victories, his triumphs, and his glories. Oh, Jove, quoth she, how much a fool was I, to be of such a weak and silly mind, to wail his death who lives and must not die, till mutual overthrown of mortal kind, for he being dead, with him is beauty slain, and beauty dead, black chaos comes again. Fie, fie, fond love, thou art as full of fear as one with treasure laden, hem with thieves, trifles unwitnessed with eye or ear. Thy coward heart with false bethinking grieves, even as at this word she hears a merry horn, whereat she leaps, that was but late forlorn. As falcons to the law away she flies, the grass stoops not, she treads on it so light, and in her haste unfortunately spies the foul boar's conquest on her fair delight, which seeing her eyes are murdered with the view, like stars ashamed of day themselves withdrew. Or as the snail whose tender horns being hit shrinks backward in his shell cave with pain, and there all smoothed up in shade doth sit, long after fearing to creep forth again, so his bloody view her eyes are fled into the deep dark caverns of his head.
Where they resign their office and their light to the disposing of her troubled brain, who bids them still consort with ugly night, and never wound the heart with looks again, who like a king perplexed in his throne by their suggestion gives a deadly groan, whereat each tributary subject quakes, as when the wind, imprisoned in the ground, struggling for passage, earth's foundation shakes, which with cold terror doth men's mind confound. This mutiny each part doth so surprise, that from their dark beds once more leap heresies, and being opened, threw unwilling light upon the wide wound that the boar had trenched in his soft flank, whose wonted lily white with purple tears that his wound wept had drenched. No flower was nigh, no grass, herb, leaf, or weed, but stole his blood, and seemed with him to bleed. This solemn sympathy poor Venus noteth. Over one shoulder doth she hang her head, dumbly she passions, frantically she doteth. She thinks he could not die, he is not dead. Her voice is stopped, her joints forget to bow, her eyes are mad that they have wept till now. Upon his hurt she looks so steadfastly that her sight dazzling makes the wound seem three. And then she reprehends her mangling eye that makes more gashes where no breach should be. His face seems twain, each several limb is doubled, for oft the eye mistakes the brain being troubled. My tongue cannot express my griefs for one, and yet, quoth she, behold two Adonnas dead. My sighs are blown away, my salt tears gone, mine eyes are turned to fire, my heart to lead, heavy hearts heavy hearts lead melt at mine eyes' red fire, so shall I die by drops of hot desire.
Alas, poor world, what treasure hast thou lost? What face remains alive that's worth the viewing? Whose tongue is music now? What canst thou boast of things long since, or anything ensuing? The flowers are sweet, their colors fresh and trim, but true sweet beauty lived and died with him. Bonnet nor veil henceforth no creature wear, nor sun nor wind will ever strive to kiss you. Having no fear to lose, you need not fear. The sun doth scorn you, and the wind doth hiss you. But when Adonis lived, sun and sharp air lurked like two thieves to rob him of his fare, and therefore would he put his bonnet on, under whose brim the gaudy sun would peep. The wind would blow it off, and being gone, play with his locks, and then would Adonis weep, and straight in pity of his tender years they both would strive who first should dry his tears. To see his face, the lion walked along behind some hedge, because he would not fear him. To recreate himself when he hath song, the tiger would be tame and gently hear us. If he had spoke, the wolf would leave his prey, and never fright the silly lambs that day. When he beheld his shadow in the brook, the fishes spread on it their golden gills. When he was by the birds, such pleasure took that some would sing, some other in their bills would bring him mulberries, and ripe red cherries he fed them with his sight, they with berries. But this foul, grim, and urchin-snouted boar, whose downward eye still looketh for a grave, never saw the beauteous livery that he wore, witness the entertainment that he gave. If he did see his face, why then I know he thought to kiss him, and hath killed him so.
'Tis true, 'tis true. Thus was Adonis slain. He ran upon the boar with his sharp spear, who did not weigh his teeth at him again, but by a kiss thought to persuade him there. And nestling in his flank, this loving swine sheathed unaware the tusk in his soft groin. If I'd been toothed like him, I must confess, with kissing him I should have killed him first. But he is dead, and never did he bless my youth with his, the more am I accursed. With this she falleth in the place she stood, and stains her face with his congealed blood. She looks upon his lips, and they are pale. She takes him by the hand, and that is cold. She whispers in his ears a heavy tale, as if they heard the woeful word she told. She lifts the coffer lids that close his eyes, where lo, 2 lamps burnt out in darkness lies. 2 glasses were herself beheld 1,000 times, and now no more reflect, their virtue lost, wherein they late excelled, and every beauty robbed of his effect. Wonder of time, quoth she, this is my spite, that thou being dead, the day should yet be light. Since thou art dead, lo, here I prophesy, sorrow on love hereafter shall attend. It shall be waited on with jealousy, fine sweet beginning, but unsavory end. Ne'er settle equally, but high or low, that all love's pleasure shall not match his woe. It shall be fickle, false, and full of fraud, bud and be blasted in a breathing while, the bottom poison, and the top o'erstrawed with sweets that shall the truest sight beguile. The strongest body shall it make most weak, strike the wise dumb, and teach the fool to speak. It shall be sparing and
It
too
shall
full.
be sparing.
It's yours. I'm sorry.
It shall be sparing, and too full of riot, teaching decrepit age to tread the measures. The staring ruffian shall it keep in quiet, pluck down the rich, enrich the poor with treasures. It shall be raging mad and silly mild, make the young old, and old become a child. It shall suspect where there is no cause of fear. It shall not fear where it should most mistrust. It shall be merciful and too severe, and most deceiving when it seems most just. Perverse it shall be where it shows most toward, put fear to valour, courage to the coward. It shall be cause of war and dire events, and set dissension twixt the son and sire, subject and servile to all discontents, as dry combustious matter is to fire. Sith in his prime, death doth my love destroy. They that love best, their loves shall not enjoy. By this, the boy that by her side lay killed was melted like a vapour from her sight, and in his blood that on the ground lay spilled, a purple flower sprung up, checkered with white, resembling well his pale cheeks, and the blood which in round drops upon their whiteness stood. She bows her head, the new sprung flower to smell, comparing it to her Adonis' breath, and says within her bosom it shall dwell, since he himself is reft from her by death. She crops the stalk, and in the breach appears green dropping sap, which she compares to tears. Poor flower, quoth she, this was thy father's guise, sweet issue of a more sweet-selling sire. For every little grief to wet his eyes, to grow unto himself was his desire. And so 'tis thine, but know it is as good to wither in my breast, as in his blood.
Here was thy father's bed, here in my breast. Thou art the next of blood, and 'tis thy right, low in this hollow cradle, take thy rest. My throbbing heart shall rock thee day and night. There shall not be 1 minute in an hour wherein I will not kiss my sweet love's flower. Thus weary of the world, away she hies, and yokes her silver doves, by whose swift aid their mistress mounted through the empty skies, in her light chariot quickly is conveyed, holding their course to Paphos, wherein their queen means to immure herself and not be seen.
Jennifer, did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's hard. It's even harder than reading normal Shakespeare.
It was
Whew.
beautiful listening to you all. I'm sorry I had to be late, but it was
No,
great. When I came on, I just listened. It was great. Great,
But
great.
this was his biggest selling work, wasn't it?
I believe so.
This
Yeah.
was his most popular piece.
Well,
I
I
don't
enjoyed
think
it
it's
as
as
an
good
outsider.
as his plays.
Sorry?
I don't think it's as good as his plays.
Depends what you mean by good. It's not
It's a different-
storytelling
It's
quite the
fascinating.
same way.
I think it's
It's an
absolutely
expression of
fascinating.
emotions.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, this is my first read of this, and I think uh, there's a lot going
Yeah.
on. This is a real.
Well, he's starting to look at emotions and how they respond, how people respond to gain and loss.
It's a real story. It's a Venus story.
Oh, yeah.
Really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I could imagine
Published
it
in
as a ballet.
1594.
Mhm.
Well, Venus is known as a mixed bag in the astrological mythology of it all. She's
Yeah.
a mixed bag. She takes in a lot of energy, but she can also take life.
Is
Mhm.
there a ballet based on this? Because I wouldn't want to see somebody try to turn this writing into a play, but I would say some kind of ballet might make sense.
Oh, I could see this as a movie.
I'm not so sure. I don't want to see some guy in tights bury his tusks in another guy's groin. It's not the sort of thing.
I don't
oh.
want to see a woman molesting a man
Yeah.
more than the other way around.
I have one
Yeah.
piddly little question. I did read this previously this year with the Fairbanks group and with the Viroqua, Wisconsin group, and they used the Riverside version, which does use quotations so you can keep track of who's speaking. And some of it,
Well,
and
that's
some,
cheating.
well, but
No,
some,
it's better this way because you can
okay.
feel
Well, then
into
I
it.
have a question. I have a question based on that
Sometimes
because
it's both of them.
Yeah.
and some of it is narrative, but
Right.
when the lines talk about how the boar was accidentally damaging Adonis, it was trying to nuzzle him and it killed him by mistake. Is that narrative or is that Venus trying to comfort herself?
Could be both.
Who knows? He's dead anyway.
Yeah,
And
but the
she's
poor
picking
boar,
up
what happened to
flowers.
the boar?
Yeah.
If we're in the middle of a set of quotation marks, we really should continue to the end of the quotation
Now,
mark.
this one is a whole different turn of events, right? This one is very cold. It's my first look at it. The other one, at
But
least,
you have to remember that the quotation marks weren't put there by Shakespeare. They were put by
I
some
know,
That's
but
true.
by
we
some
can,
editor later.
yes, but we can figure it out.
Yeah, we can
But,
figure it out.
The
I
thing
don't
is,
want.
we were tended to
Roman
stop
horrors.
in the middle of a speech to give it to the next person, and
Well, that's
we
fair
should
enough.
try to avoid that.
But
Yeah.
it seems that when I came in, it appears that she doesn't know if he's dead, but she's already making him a monument. She's already planning what she's going to do when he dies. Right? You know, so
Well, there's that.
that's kind of cute. Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's that moment where she
Like
says,
the rape of Lucrece.
What?
Let us go on to the rape of Lucrece.
Okay.
In pale embers hid. Who's going to start? Should I start it? This
Are
totally.
we keeping the same
All right,
order?
let's get there. Let's get there first. Let me
Alright.
see.
Okay.
Yeah, Michael.
The rape of.
Hey,
Okay. All right. Where would you start?
Except
I'm going to
he
start it.
at page 71.
Who finished the last one?
That was
I did.
Michael.
Well,
You
Michael
got
had
just a little
Michael had
smidgen.
one line. Michael, did you want to read the introduction? Then I'll start
From the
with the
besieged is it Ardea? Ardea?
Dear.
Honorable
To
Henry.
the right,
To the right,
Honorable Henry, page 71.
Oh, I don't want to read that.
Nah, who
Okay, why don't
cares?
just reading
Just tell
74
me
and
if it's
70.
Ardea. Ardea or Ardea? Ardea.
Either.
All right.
Take your pick.
All right. So you want to start there? We're going to read the whole Henry introduction, Bill. Sir.
72 has
Nah.
Hey, Eleanor, I mean, when started off with Venus and Adonis, Paul read that introductory
yes.
letter.
All right.
He read the introductory letter.
Go ahead and read it, Eleanor.
Okay. To the right honorable Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton and Baron of Titchfield, the love I dedicate to your lordship is without end. Whereof this pamphlet without beginning is but a superfluous moiety. The warrant I have of your honorable disposition, not the worth of my untutored lines, make it assured of its acceptance. What I have done is yours. What I have to do is yours. Being part in all I have devoted yours. Were my worth greater, my duty would show greater. Meantime, as it is bound to your lordship, to whom I wish long life still lengthened with all happiness. Your lordship's in all duty, William Shakespeare.
Okay, Michael.
Lucius Tarquinius, for his excessive pride, surnamed Superbus, after he had caused his own father-in-law, Servilius Tullius, to be cruelly murdered, and contrary to the Roman laws and customs, not requiring or staying for the people's suffrages, had possessed himself of the kingdom, went accompanied with his sons and other noblemen of Rome to besiege Ardea, during which siege the principal men of the army meeting one evening at the tent of Sextus Tarquini, the king's son, in their discourses after supper, everyone commended the virtues of his own wife, among whom Collatinus extolled the incomparable chastity of his wife Lucretia. In that pleasant humor, they all posted to Rome, and intended by their secret and sudden arrival to make trial of that which everyone had before avouched. Only Collatinus finds his wife, though it were late in the night, spinning amongst her maids. The other ladies were all found dancing and revelling, or in several disports, whereupon the nobleman yielded Collatinus the victory, and his wife the fame. At that time, Sextus Tarquinius, being inflamed with Lucretia's beauty, yet smothering his passions for the present, departed with the rest back to the camp, from whence he shortly after privily withdrew himself, and was, according to his estate, royally entertained and lodged by Lucrece at Coletium. That same night he treacherously stealeth into her chamber, violently ravished her, and early in the morning speedeth away. Lucrece in this lamentable plight hastily dispatched messengers, one to Rome for her father, another to the camp for Collatina. They came, the one accompanied with Junius Brutus, the other with Publius Valerius, and finding Lucrece attired in mourning habit, and demanded the cause of her sorrow. She, first taking an oath of them for her revenge, revealed the actor and whole manner of his dealing, and withal suddenly stabbed herself, which done, with one consent they all vowed to root out the whole hated family of the Tarquins, and bearing the dead body to Rome, Brutus acquainted the people with the doer and manner of the vile deed, with a bitter invective against the tyranny of the king, wherewith the people were so moved that with one consent and a general acclamation, the Tarquins were all exiled, and the state government changed from kings to consuls.
Michael, I know you were going to start reading. I noticed it's not in stanzas. Does it make sense to do 2 pages and then, I don't know, pause at the first punctuation after 2 pages?
Well, there are two sections. It goes, if you roll down, you see there's one you could do, like, page 74, page 75, and then someone could pick up 76. Seems to be two.
So what do you want me to read up to? You want me to just let somebody take over right in the middle of it?
No, in other words, I could come in on page 76 if you do
Fine.
74 and 75.
From the besieged.
He's in the middle of a sentence at the bottom of 75, so
I'll complete the sentence.
yeah.
From a besieged Ardea, all in post, borne by the trustless wings of false desire, lust-breathed Tarquin leaves the Roman host, and to Collasium bears the lightless fire, which in pale embers hid, lurks to aspire, and girdle with embracing flames the wastes of Collantine's fair love. Lucrece the chaste, haply that name of chaste, haply set this baitless edge on his keen appetite, when Collantine unwisely did not let to praise the clear unmatched red and white, which triumphed in that sky of his delight, where mortal stars, as bright as heaven's beauties, with pure aspects did him peculiar duties. For he, the night, before in Tarquin's tent, unlocked the treasure of his happy state, what priceless wealth the heavens had him lent in the possession of his beauteous mate, reckoning his fortune at such high proud rate, that kings might be espoused to more fame, but king nor peer to such a peerless dame. Oh, happiness and joy but of a few, and if possessed as soon decayed and done, as in the morning's silver melting dew against the golden splendor of the sun, an expired date cancelled ere well begun. Honor and beauty in the owner's arms are weakest fortress from a world of harms. Beauty itself doubt, of itself persuade the eyes of men without an orator. What needeth an apologies be made to set forth that which is so singular? Oh, why is Collantine the publisher of such rich jewel he keep unknown from the thievish ears, because it is his own? Perchance his boast of Lucretia's sovereignty suggested this proud issue of a king, for by our ears our hearts oft tainted be. Perhaps that envy of such a thing, braving compare disdainfully did sting. His high-pitched thoughts that meaner men should that golden happen when their superiors want. But some untimely thought did instigate his all too timeless speed of none of these, his honor, his affairs, his friends, his state, neglected all, with swift intent he goes to quench the coal which in his liver glows, his liver glows. O rash false heat, wrapped in repentant cold, thy hasty spring still blasts and ne'er grows old. When at Colossia this false lord arrived, well was he welcomed by the Roman dame, in whom his face, beauty, and virtue strived, which of them both should underprop her fame. When virtue bragged, beauty would blush for shame. When beauty boasted, blushes in despite. Virtue would stain that all with silver white, but beauty in that white entilled.
From Venus doves doth challenge that fair field, then virtue claims from beauty beauty's red, which virtue gave the golden age to gild their silver cheeks, and called it then their shield, teaching them thus to use it in the fight. When shame assailed, the red should fence the white. This heraldry in Lucrece's face was seen, argued by beauties, red, red and virtue's white, of either color was the other queen, proving from world's minority their right, yet their ambition makes them still to fight, the sovereignty of either being so great that oft they interchange each other's seat. The silent war of lilies and of roses, which Tarquin viewed in her fair face's field, in their pure ranks his traitor eye encloses, where least between them both it should be killed. The coward captain vanquished doth yield in these two armies that would let him go, rather than triumph in so false a foe. Now thinks he that her husband's shallow tongue, the niggard prodigal that praised her so, in that high task hath done her beauty wrong, which far exceeds his barren skill to show, therefore that praise which Collatine doth owe. Enchanted Tarquin answers with surmise, in silent wonder of still gazing eyes. The saintly saint, adored by this devil, little suspects the false worshipper, for unstained thoughts do seldom dream on evil. And birds never lie, no secret bushes fear, so guiltless she securely gives good cheer, and reverent welcomes to her princely guests, whose inward ill no outward harm express. For that he colored with his high estate, hiding base sins in pleats of majesty, that nothing in him seemed inordinate, save something too much wonder of his eye, which having all could not satisfy, but poorly rich so wanteth in his store, that cloyed with much, he pineth still for more. But she that never coped with stranger eyes could pick no meaning from their parling looks, nor read the subtle shining secrecy writ in the glassy margin of such books. She touched no unknown baits, nor feared no hooks, nor could she moralize his wanton sight, more than his eyes were open to the light. He stories to her ears her husband's fame, won in the fields of fruitful Italy, and decks with praises Colatine's high name, made glorious by his manly chivalry, with bruised arms and wreaths of glory. Her joy with heaved up hands she doth express, and wordless so greets heaven for his success. Far from the purpose of his coming thither, he makes excuses for his being there. No cloudy show of stormy, blustering weather doth yet in his fair welcome once appear to stable night mother of dread and fear.
Upon the world dim darkness doth display, and in her vaulty prison stows the day. For then is Tarquin brought unto his bed, intending weariness with heavy sprite. For after supper long he questioned with modest Lucrece, and wore out the night. Now leaden slumber with live's strength does fight, and every one to rest themselves betake, save thieves and cares and troubled minds that wake, as one of which doth Tarquin lie revolving, the sundry dangers of his will's obtaining, yet ever to obtain his will resolving, though weak-built hopes persuade him to abstaining. Despair to gain doth traffic oft for gaining, and when great treasure is the meed proposed, though death be adjunct, there's no death supposed. Those that much covet are with gain so fond that what they have not, that which they possess, they scatter and unloose it from their bond, and so by hoping more they have but less, or gaining more the profit of excess is but to surfeit and such grief sustain that they prove bankrupt in this poor rich gain. The aim of all is but to nurse the life with honor, wealth, and ease, and waning age. And in this aim there is such a thwarting strife that one for all or all for one we gauge, as life for honor in fell battles rage. Honor for wealth, and oft that wealth does cost the death of all, and altogether lost. So that in venturing ill we leave to be the thing we are, for that which we expect. And this ambitious foul infirmity, and having much torments us with defect of that what we have. So then we do neglect the thing we have, and all for want of wit make something nothing by augmenting it. Such hazard now must doting Tarquin make, pawning his honor to obtain his lust, and for himself he must forsake. Then where is truth if there be no self-trust? When shall he think to find a stranger just, when he himself confounds, betrays to scandalous tongues and wretched hateful days? Now stole upon the time the dead of night, when heavy sleep hath closed up mortal eye. No comfortable star did lend his light, no noise but owls and wolves' death-boding cries. Now serves the season that they may surprise the silly lambs. Pure thoughts are dead and still, while lust and murder wakes to stain and kill. And now this lustful lord, left from his bed, throwing his mantle rudely o'er his arm, is madly tossed between desire and dread. The one sweetly flatters, the other feareth harm. But honest fear, bewitched with lust's full charm, doth too often betake him to retire, beaten away by brain-sick rude desire. His falchion on a flint he softly smiteth, that from the cold stone sparks of fire doth fly, whereat A waxen torch forthwith he lighteth, which must be lodestar to his lustful eye.
And to the flame thus speaks advisedly. As from this cold flint I enforced this fire, so Lucrece must I force to my desire. Here, pale with fear, he doth premeditate the dangers of his loathsome enterprise, and in his inward mind he doth debate what following sorrow may on this arise. Then looking scornfully, he doth despise his naked armor of still slaughtered lust, and justly thus controls his thoughts unjust. Fair torch, burn out thy light, and lend it not to darken her whose light excelleth thine, and die unhallowed thoughts before you blot with your uncleanness that which is divine. Offer pure incense to so pure a shrine. Let fair humanity abhor the deed that spots and stains love's modest snow-white weed. O shame to knighthood and to shining arms! O foul dishonor to my household's grave! O impious act, including all foul harms! A martial man to be soft fancy's slave! True valor still a true respect should have. Then my discretion is so vile, so base, that it will live engraven in my face. Yea, though I die, the scandal will survive and be an eyesore in my golden coat. Some loathsome dash the herald will contrive to cipher me. How fondly I did dote that my posterity, shamed with the note, shall curse my bones and hold it for no sin to wish I their father had not been. What win I if I gain the thing I seek? A dream, a breath, a froth of fleeting joy. Who buys a minute's mirth to wail a week, or sells eternity to get a toy? For one sweet grape, who will the vine destroy? Or what fond beggar but to touch the crown would with the sceptre straight be stroken down?
If Collatinus dream of my intent, will he not wake, and in a desperate rage post hither this vile purpose to prevent? This siege that hath engirt his marriage, this blur to youth, this sorrow to the sage, this dying virtue, this surviving shame, whose crime will bear an ever-during blame. Oh, what excuse can my invention make when thou shalt charge me with so black a deed? Will not my tongue be mute, my frail joints shake? Mine eyes forego their light, my false heart bleed? The guilt being great, the fear doth still exceed. And extreme fear can neither fight nor fly, but coward-like with trembling error die. Had Collatinus killed my son or sire, or lain in ambush to betray my life, or were he not my dearest friend, this desire might have excuse to work upon his wife, as in revenge or quittal of such strife. But as he is my kinsman, my dearest friend, the shame and fault finds no excuse nor end. Shameful it is, aye, if the fact be known. Hateful it is. There is no hate in loving. I'll beg her love, but she is not her own. The worst is but denial and reproving. My will is strong past reason's weak removing. Who fears a sentence or an old man's saw shall by a painted cloth be kept in awe. Thus graceless holds he disputation between frozen conscience and hot burning will, and with good thoughts makes dispensation, urging the worser sense for vantage still, which in a moment doth confound and kill all pure effects, and doth so far proceed that what is vile shows like a virtuous deed. Quoth he, she took me kindly by the hand, and gazed for tidings in my eager eyes, fearing some hard news from the warlike band, where her beloved Collatinus lies. Oh, how her fear did make her color rise!
First red as roses that on lawn we lie, then white as lawn the roses took away, and now her hand in my hand being locked, forced it to tremble with her loyal fear, which struck her sad, and then it faster rocked, until her husband's welfare she did hear. whereat she smiled with so sweet a cheer that had Narcissus seen her as she stood, self-love had never drowned him in the flood. Why hunt I then for colour or excuses? All orators are dumb when beauty pleadeth. Poor wretches have remorse in poor abuses. Love thrives not in the heart that shadows dreadeth. Affection is my captain, and he leadeth. And when his gaudy banner is displayed, the cowards fight and will not be dismayed. Then childish fear of our debating die, respect and reason wait on wrinkled age. My heart shall never countermand my eye. Sad pause and deep regard beseems the sage. My part is youth, and beats these from the stage. Desire my plot is, beauty my praise. Then who fears sinking where such treasure lies, as corn o'ergrown by weeds? So heedful fear is almost choked by unresisted lust. Away he steals with open listening ear, full foul hope and full of fond mistrust, both which are servitors to the unjust. So cross him with their opposite persuasion, that now he vows a league, and now invasion. Within his thought her heavenly image sits, and in the self-same seat sits Coltane. That eye which looks on her confounds his wits. That eye which him beholds as more divine, unto a view so false it will not incline, but with a pure appeal seeks to the heart, which one corrupted takes the worser part, and therein heartens up his servile powers, who, flattered by their leader's jocund show, stuff up his loft as minutes fill up hours. That's a period.
Michael, are you there?
He's gone. Whoever's next, take it. Jackie, you want to take?
Okay, sure. And as their captain, so their pride doth grow, paying more slavish tribute than they owe. By reprobate desire thus madly led, the Roman lord Macheath to
Marcheth.
Lucretia's bed. The Roman lord marches to Lucretia's bed. Is it her Lucrece? To Lucrece's bed, I would think. The locks between her chamber and his will, each one by him enforced, retires his ward. But as they open, they all rate his ill, which drives the creeping thief to some regard. The threshold grates the door to have him heard. Night wandering weasels shriek to see him there. They fright him, yet he still pursues his fear. As each unwilling portal yields him way, through little dents and crannies of the place, the wind wars with his touch to make him stay, and blows the smoke of it into his face, extinguishing his conduct in this case. But his hot heart, which fond desire doth scorch, puffs forth another wind that fires a torch, and being lighted by the light he spies Lucretia's glove, wherein her needle sticks. He takes it from the rushes where it lies, and gripping it, the needle his finger pricks, as who should say, this glove to wanton tricks is not in ord. Return again in haste. Thou seest our mistress's ornaments are chaste, but all these poor forbiddings could not stay him. He, in the worst sense, consters their denial. The door, the wind, the glove that did delay him, he takes for accidental things of trial, or as those bars which stop the hourly dial, who with a lingering stay his course doth let, till every minute pays the hour his debt. So, quoth he, these lets attend the time, like little frost that sometimes threat the spring, to add a more rejoicing to the prime, and give the steep birds more cause to sing. Pain pays the income of each precious thing, huge rocks, high winds, strong pirates, shelves and sands, The marchant fears ere rich at home he lands. Now he come into the chamber door.
That shuts him from the heaven of his thought, which with a yielding latch and with no more hath barred him from the blessed thing he sought. So from himself impiety hath wrought, that for his prey to pray he doth begin, as if the heavens should countenance his sin. But in the midst of his unfruitful prayer, having solicited the eternal power that his foul thoughts might compass his fair fare, and they would stand auspicious to the hour, even there he starts. Quoth he, I must deflower. The powers to whom I pray abhor this fact. How can they then assist me in the act? Then love and fortune be my gods, my guide. My will is backed with resolution. Thoughts are but dreams till their effects be tried. The blackest sin is cleared with absolution. Against love's fire, fear's frost hath dissolution. The eye of heaven is out, and misty night covers the shame that follows sweet delight. This said, his guilty hand plucked up the latch, and with his knee the door he opens wide. The dove sleeps fast that this night owl will catch. Thus treason works ere traitors be espied. Who sees the lurking serpent steps aside. But she, sound sleeping, fearing no such thing, lies at the mercy of his mortal sting. Into the chamber wickedly he stalks, and gazeth on her yet unstained bed. The curtains being closed, about he walks, rowling his greedy eyeballs in his head. By their high treason is his heart misled, which gives the watchword to his hand full soon, to draw the cloud that hides the silver moon. Look, as the fair and fiery pointed sun, rushing from forth a cloud, bereaves our sight, even so the curtain drawn, his eyes begin to wink, being blinded with a greater light. Whether it is that she reflects so bright that dazzleth them, or else some shame supposed, but blind they are, and keep themselves enclosed.
Oh, had they in that darksome prison died, then had they seen the period of their ill. Then Collatine again by Lucrece' side in his clear bed might have reposed still, but they must ope this blessed league to kill, and wholly thoughted Lucrece to their sight must sell her joy, her life, her world's delight. Her lily hand, her rosy cheek lies under, coaxing the pillow of a lawful kiss. Who therefore, angry, seems to part in sunder, swelling on either side to want his bliss, between whose hills her head entombed is, where like a virtuous monument she lies, to be admired of lewd, unhallowed eyes. Without the bed, her other fair hand was, on the green coverlet, whose perfect white showed like an April daisy on the grass, with pearly sweat resembling dew of night. Her eyes, like marigolds, had sheathed their light, and canopied in darkness, sweetly lay, till they might open to adorn the day. Her hair like golden threads played with her breath. O modest wantons, wanton modesty, showing life's triumph in the map of death, and death's dim look in life's mortality, each in her sleep themselves so beatificy, as if between them twain there were no strife, but that life lived in death, and death in life. Her breasts like ivory globes, circled with blue, a pair of maiden worlds, unconquered save of their lord. No bearing yoke they knew, and him by oath they truly honored. These worlds in Tarquin new ambition bred, who like a foul usurper went about from this fair throne to heave the owner out. What could he see but mightily he noted? What did he note but strongly he desired? What he beheld, on that he firmly doted, and in his will, his wilful eye, he tired.
With more than admiration, he admired her azure veins, her alabaster skin, her coral lips, her snow white dimpled chin. As the grim lion faunt o'er his prey, sharp hunger by the conquest satisfied, So o'er the sleeping soul did Tarquin stay, his rage of lust by gazing qualified, slaked, not suppressed, for standing by her side, his eye, which late this mutiny restrains, unto a greater uproar tempts his veins. And they, like straggling slaves for pillage fighting, obdurate vassals fell, exploits effecting, in bloody death and ravishment delighting, nor children's tears nor mothers' groans respecting, swelling their pride, the onset still expecting. Anon, his beating heart alarm striking, gives a hot charge and bids them do their liking. His drumming heart cheers up his burning eye. His eye commends the leading to his hand. His hand is proud of such a dignity, smoking with pride, marched on to make his stand on her bare breast, the heart of all her land, whose ranks of blue veins as his hand did scale, left their round turrets destitute and pale. They, mustering to the quiet cabinet, where their dear governess and lady lies, do tell her she is dreadfully beset, and fright her with the confusion of their cries. She, much amazed, breaks open her locked up eyes, who, peeping forth this tumult to behold, are by his flaming torch dimmed and controlled. Imagine her as one in dead of night, from forth dull sleep, from dreadful fancy waking, that thinks she hath beheld some ghastly sprite, whose grim aspect sets every joint a shaking. What terror 'tis! But she, in worse her taking, from sleep disturbed, heedfully doth view the sight which makes supposed terror true. Wrapped and confused in a thousand fears, like to a new killed bird, she trembling lies. She dares not look, yet winking there appears quick shifting antiques, ugly in her eyes.
If shadows are the weak brain's forgeries, who angry that the eyes fly from their lights, in darkness daunts them with more dreadful sights, his hand that yet remains upon her breast, rude ram, to batter such an ivory wall, may feel her heart, poor citizen, distressed, wounding itself to death, rise up and fall, beating her bulk that his hand shakes withal. This moves in him more rage and lesser pity, to make the breach and enter this sweet city. First like a trumpet doth his tongue begin to sound a parley to his heartless foe, who o'er the white sheet peers her whiter chin, the reason of his rash alarm to know, which he by dumb demeanour seeks to show. But she with vehement prayers urges still, under what colour he commits this ill. Thus he replies, the colour in thy face, that even for anger makes the lily pale, and the red rose blush at her own disgrace, shall plead for me and tell my loving tale. Under that colour am I come to scale thy never conquered fault. The fault is thine, for thine eyes betray thee unto mine. Thus I forestall thee, if thou mean to chide. Thy beauty hath ensnared thee to this night, where thou with patience must my will abide. My will that marks thee for my earth's delight, which I to conquer sought with all my might. But as reproof and reason beat it dead, by thy bright beauty was it newly bred. I see what crosses my attempt will bring. I know what thorns the growing rose defends. I think the honeyed garden with a sting. All this beforehand counsel comprehends. But will is death, and hears no heedful friends. Only he hath an eye to gaze on beauty, and dote on what he looks, 'gainst law or duty.
I have debated even in my soul what wrong, what shame, what sorrow I shall breed. But nothing can affection's course control, or stop the heating fury of his speed. I know repentant tears, and so the deed, reproach, stain, and deadly enmity, yet strive I to embrace mine infamy. This said, he shakes aloft his Roman blade, which like a falcon towering in the skies couches the fowl below with his winged shade, whose crooky beak threats if he mount, he dies. So under his insult falcon lies harmless Lucretia, marking what he tells with trembling fear as foul hair falcon spells. Lucretia, quoth he, this night I must enjoy thee. If thou deny, then force must work my way, for in thy bed I propose to destroy thee. That done, some worthless slave of thine will stay, to kill thine honor with life's decay. And in thy dead armies do I mean to place him, swearing I slew him, seeing thee embrace him. So thy surviving husband shall remain the scornful mark of every open eye. Thy kinsmen hang their heads at this disdain, thy issue blurred with nameless bastardy, and thou the author of their obloquy shall have thy trespass cited up in rhymes and sung by children in succeeding times. But if thou yield, I rest thy secret friend. The fault unknown is as a thought unacted, a little harm done to a great good end. For lawful policy remains enacted, and thy poisonous simple sometimes is compacted. In a pure compound being so applied, his venom in effect is purified. Then, for thy husband and thy children's sake, tender my sweet bequeath not to their lot, the shame that from them no device can take, the blemish that will never be forgot, worse than a slavish wipe or birth's owl's blot.
But marks descried in men's nativity are nature's faults, not their own infamy. Here with cockatrice, dead killing eye, he rouses up himself and makes a pause, while she, the picture of pure piety, like a white hind under the grape's sharp claws, pleads in a wilderness where are no laws, to the rough beast that knows no gentle right, nor aught obeys but his foul appetite. But when a black-faced cloud the world doth threat, in his dim mist the aspiring mountains hiding, from earth's dark womb some gentle gust doth get, which blow these pitchy, say, vapors from their abiding, hindering their present fall by this dividing. So his unhallowed haste her warrior words delays, and moody Pluto winks while Orpheus plays. Yet foul now night waking cat he doth but dally, while in his hold fast foot the weak mouse. Her sad behavior feeds his ultra folly, a swallowing gulf that even in plenteeth wanteth. His ear her prayers admits, but his heart granteth no penetrable entrance to her playing. Tears harden lust through marble worth with raining. Her pity-pleading eyes are sadly fixed in the remorseless wrinkles of his face. Her modest eloquence with sighs is mixed, which to her oratory aids more grace. She put the period often from his place, amidst the sentence, so her accent breaks, that 'twas she doth begin ere once she speaks. She conjures him by high almighty love, by knighthood gentry and sweet friendship's oath, by her untimely tears her husband's love, by holy humane law and common troth, by heaven and earth and all the power of both, that to his power bed he make retire, and stoop to honor, not to foul desire. Quoth she, reward not hospitality with such black payment as thou hast pretended. Muddy not the fountain that gave drink to thee, mar not the thing that cannot be amended.
End thy ill aim before thy shoot be ended. He is no woodman that doth bend his bow to strike a poor unseasonable doe. My husband is thy friend, for his sake spare me. Thyself art mighty, for thine own sake leave me, myself a weakling. Do not then ensnare me. Thou look'st not like deceit. Do not deceive me. My sighs, like whirlwinds, labor hence to heave thee. If ever man were moved with woman's moans, be moved with my tears, my sighs, my groans, all which together, like a troubled ocean, beat at thy rocky and rack-threatening heart, to soften it with their continual motion. For stones dissolved to water do convert. Oh, if no harder than a stone thou art, melt at my tears and be compassionate. Soft pity enters at an iron gate. In Tarquin's likeness I did entertain thee. Hast thou put on his shape to do him shame? To all the host of heaven I complain me, thou wrong'st his honor, wound'st his princely name. Thou art not what thou seem'st, and if the same, thou seem'st not what thou art, a god, a king, for kings like gods should govern everything. How will thy shame be seated in thine age when thus thy vices bud before thy spring? If in thy hope thou darest do such outrage, what darest thou not when once thou art a king? Oh, be remembered, not outrageous thing from vassal actors can be wiped away. Then kings' misdeeds cannot be hid in clay. This deed will make thee only loved for fear, but happy monarchs still are feared for love. With foul offenders thou perforce must bear when they in thee the like offences prove. If but for fear of this, thy will remove. For princes are the glass, the school, the book where subjects' eyes do learn, do read, do look. And wilt thou be the school where lust shall learn?
Must he in thee read lectures of such shame? Wilt thou be glass wherein it shall but discern authority for sin, warrant for blame, to privilege dishonor in thy name? Thou backest reproach against long living laud, and make fair reputation but a bawd. Hast thou command by him that gave it thee? From a pure heart command thy rebel will. Draw not thy sword to guard iniquity, for it was lent thee all that brood to kill. Thy princely office how canst thou fulfill, when pattered by thy foul sin may say, he learnt to sin, and thou didst teach the way. Think but how vile a spectacle it were to view thy present trespass in another. Men's faults do seldom to themselves appear, their own transgressions partially they smother. This guilt would seem death-worthy in thy brother. Oh, how are they wrapped in with infamies, that from their own misdeeds askance their eyes. To
To
thee,
thee, to thee, my heaved up hands appeal, not to seducing lust, thy rashful liar. I sue for exile majesty's repeal. Let him return, and flattering thoughts retire. His true respect will prison false desire, and wipe the dim mist from thy doting eye, that thou shalt see that thy state, and pity mine. Have done, quoth he, my uncontrolled tide turns not, but swells the higher by this let. Small lights are soon blown out, huge fires abide, and with the wind in greater fury fret. The petty streams that pay a daily debt to their salt sovereign with their fresh falls haste add to his flow, but alter not his taste. Thou art, quoth she, a sea, a sovereign king, and lo, there falls into thy boundless blood black lust, dishonor, shame, misgoverning, who seek to stain the ocean of thy blood. If all these petty ills shall change thy good, thy sea within a puddle's womb is hearsed, and not the puddle in thy sea dispersed. So shall these slaves be king, and thou their slave, thou nobly base, they basely dignify. Thou their noble fair life, and they thy fouler grave. Thou loathed in their shame, they in thy pride. The lesser thing should not the greater hide. The cedar stoops not to the base shrub's foot, but low shrubs wither at the cedar's root. So let thy thoughts low vassals to thy state. No more, quoth he, by heaven, I will not hear thee. Yield to my love, if not enforce hate, instead of love's coy touch shall readily tear thee. That done despitefully, I mean to bear thee unto the base bed of some rascal groom, to be thy partner in this shameful doom. This said, he sets his foot upon the light, for light and lust are deadly enemies, shame folded up in blind concealing night. When most unseen, the most doth tyrannize. The wolf that seized his prey, the poor lamb cries, till with her own white fleece her voice controlled, intunes her outcry in her lips' sweet fold.
For why the knightly linen that she wears, he pens her piteous clamours in her head, cooling his hot face in the chastest tears that ever modest eyes with sorrow shed. Oh, that prone lust should stain so pure a bed! The spots whereof would weeping purify, her tears should drom on them perpetually. But she hath lost a dearer thing than life, and he hath won what he would lose again. This forced league doth force a further strife. This momentary joy breeds months of pain. This hot desire converts to cold disdain. Poor charity is rifled of her store, and lust the thief far poorer than before. Look, as the full-fed hound or gorged hawk, unapt for tender smell or speedy flight, makes slow pursuit or altogether balk. The prey within by nature they delight. So, surfeit taking, Tarquit fares the night. His taste delicious, in digestion souring, devours his will that lived by foul devouring. O deeper sin than bottomless conceit can comprehend in such imagination. Drunken desire must vomit his receipt ere he can see his own abomination. While lust is in his pride, no exclamation can curb his heat or rein his rash desire, till like a jade self-will himself doth tire. And then with lank and lean discoloured cheek, with heavy eye, knit brow, and strengthless pace, feeble desire, all recreant, poor and meek, like to a bankrupt beggar wails his case. The flesh being proud, desire doth fight with grace, for there it revels, and when that decays, the guilty rebel for remission prays. So fares with this fault fool lord of Rome, who this accomplishment so hotly chased, for now against himself he sounds this doom, that through the length of times he stands disgraced.
Besides, his soul's fair temple is defaced, to whose weak rushes ruins muster troops of cares, to ask the spotted princess how she fares. She says her subjects with foul insurrection have battered down her consecrated wall, and by their mortal fault brought in subjection her immortality, and made her thrall to living death and pain perpetual,
Ah,
which in presence she's controlled still by her foresight could not forestill their will. Even in this thought, through the dark night he stealeth, a captain victor that had lost his gain, bearing away the wound that nothing healeth, the scar that will despite of cure remain, leaving his spoil perplexed in greater pain. She bears the load of lust he left behind, and he the burthen of a guilty mind. He like a thievish dog creeps sadly hence. She like a wearied lamb lies panting there. He scowls and hates himself for his offense. She desperate with her nails her flesh doth tear. He vainly flies sweating with guilty fear. She stays exclaiming on that direful night. He runs and chides his famished loth delight. He thence departs a heavy convertite. She there remains, a hopeless castaway. He in his speed looks for the morning light. She prays she never may behold the day. For day, quoth she, night scapes doth upon lay, and my true eyes have never practised how to cloak offences with a cunning brow. They think not but that every eye can see the same disgrace which they themselves behold, and therefore would they still in darkness be, to have their unseen sin remain untold. For they their guilt with weeping will unfold, and grave like water doth eat and steal upon my cheeks what helpless shame I feel. Here she exclaims against repose and rest, and bids her eyes hereafter still be blind. She wakes her heart by beating on her breast, and bids it leap from thence, where it may find some purer chest to close so pure a mind.
Frantic with grief, thus breathes she forth her spite against the unseen secrecy of night. O comfort-killing night, image of hell, dim register and notary of shame, black stage for tragedies and murders fell, vast sin-concealing chaos, nurse of blame, blind muffled board, dark harbor for defame, grim cave of death, whispering conspirator, with close-tongued treason, and the ravisher, O hateful, vaporous, and foggy night, since thou art guilty of my cureless crime, muster thy mist to meet the eastern light, make war against proportions, course of time, if thou wilt permit the sun to climb his wonted height, yet ere he go to bed, knit poisonous clouds upon his golden head, with rotten damps ravish the morning air, let their exhale unwholesome breaths make sick the life of purity, the supreme fair, ere he arrives his weary noontide prick, and let the music vapors march so thick. My let's see if something happened here. Okay. And let the music vapors march so thick that in their smoky ranks his smothered light may set at noon and make perpetual night. Where Tarquin night, as he is but night's child, the silver shining queen he would disdain. Her twinkling handmaids too by him defiled, to night's black bosom should not peep again, so should I have co-partners in my pain, and fellowship in woe doth woe assuage, as palmers chant make short their pilgrimage, where now I have no one to blush with me, to cross their arms and hang their heads with mine, to mask their brows and hide their infamy, but I alone, alone must sit and pine, seasoning the earth with showers of silver brine, mingling my talk with tears, my grief with groans, poor wasting monuments of lasting moans. O night, thou furnace of foul-reeking smoke, let not the jealous day behold that face which underneath thy black all-hiding cloak immodesty lies martyred with disgrace. Keep still possession of thy gloomy place, that all the faults which in thy reign are made may likewise be sepultured in thy shade. Make me not object to the telltale day. The light will show charactered in my brow the story of sweet chastity's decay, the impious breach of holy wedlock vow. Yea, the illiterate that know not how to cipher what is writ in learned books will coat my loathsome trespass in my looks. The nurse to still her child will tell my story, and fight her crying babe with Tarquin's name. The orator do deck his oratory, will couple my reproach to Tarquin's shame. Feast-finding minstrels, turning my defame, will tie the hearers to attend each line. How Tarquin wronged me, I, Collatine.
Let my good name, that senseless reputation for Collatine's dear love, be kept unspotted. If that be made a theme for disputation, the branch of another root are rotted, an undeserved reproach to him allotted. This is as clear from this attaint of mine as I ere this was pure to Collatine. O unseen shame, invisible disgrace, O unfelt sore, crest wounding, private scar, reproach is stamped in Collatina's face, and Tarquin's eye may read the mote afar, how he in peace is wounded, not in war. Alas, how many bear such shameful blows, which not themselves, but he that gives them knows. If, Collatine, thine honor lay in me, from me by strong assault it is bereft, my honey lost, and I, a drone-like bee, have no perfection of my summer left, but robbed and ransacked by injurious theft. In thy weak hive a wandering wasp hath crept, and sucked the honey which thy chaste bee kept. Yet am I guilty of thy honor's wrack, yet for thy honor I did entertain him. Coming from thee I could not put him back, for it had been dishonor to disdain him. Besides of weariness he did complain him, and talked of virtue, O unlooked for evil, when virtue is profaned in such a devil. Why should the worm intrude the maiden bud, or hateful cuckoos hatch the sparrows' nests, or toads infect fair fonts with venom mud, or tyrant folly lurk in gentle breasts, or kings be breakers of their own behests? But no perfection is so absolute that some impurity doth not pollute. The aged man that coffers up his gold is plagued with cramps and gouts and painful fits, and scarce hath eyes his treasures to behold, but still like pining Tantalus he sits, and useless barns the harvest of his wits.
Having no other pleasure of his gain, but torment that it cannot cure his pain. So then he hath it when he cannot use it, and leaves it to be mastered by his young, who in their pride do presently abuse it. Their father was too weak, and they too strong to hold their cursed, blessed fortune long. The sweets we wish for turn to loathed sours, even in the moment that we call them ours. Unruly blasts wait on the tender spring, unwholesome weeds take root with precious flowers. The adder hisses where the sweet birds sing. What virtue breeds iniquity devours. We have no good that we can say is ours, but ill annexed opportunity, or kills his life, or else his quality. O opportunity, thy guilt is great, 'tis thou that executed this the traitor's treason. Thou set'st the wolf where he the lamb may get. Whoever plots the sin thou points the season. 'Tis thou that spurn'st at right, at law, at reason, and in thy shady cell, where none may spy him, sits sin to seize the souls that wander by him. Thou mak'st the vestal violate her oath. Thou blow'st the fire when temperance is thawed. Thou smotherest honesty, thou murderest troth. Thou foul abettor, thou notorious bawd. Thou plantest scandal and placest loud. Thou ravisher, thou traitor, thou foul thief. Thy honey turns to gall, thy joy to grief, thy secret pleasure turns to open shame, thy private feasting to a public fast, thy smoothing titles to a ragged name, thy sugared tongue to bitter wormwood taste, thy violent vanities can never last. How comes it then, vile opportunity, being so bad, such numbers seek for thee? When wilt thou be the humble suppliant's friend, and bring him where his suit may be obtained? When wilt thou sort an hour of great stripes to end, or free that soul which wretchedness hath chained? Give physic to the sick, ease to the pain.
The poor, lame, blind, halt, creep, cry out for thee, but they ne'er meet with opportunity. The patient dies while the physician sleeps. The orphan pines while the oppressor feeds. Justice is feasting while the widow weeps. Vice is sporting while infection breeds. Thou grantst no time for charitable deeds. Wrath, envy, treason, rape, and murders rages. Thine heinous hours wait on them as their pages. When truth and virtue have to do with thee, 1,000 crosses keep thee from thy aid. They buy, they help, but sin ne'er gives a fee. He gratis comes, and thou art well paid, as well to hear as grant what he hath said. My Collatine would else have come to me when Tarquin did, but he was stayed by thee. Guilty thou art of murder and of theft, guilty of perjury and subornation, guilty of treason, forgery, and shift, guilty of incest, that abomination, and accessory by thine inclination, to all sins past and all that are to come, from the creation to the general doom. Misshapen time, copes made of ugly night, swift, subtle post, carrier of grisly care, eater of youth, false slave to false delight, base watch of woes, sympacors, virtue's snare. Thou nursest all, and murderest all that are. Oh, hear me then, injurious shifting time, be guilty of my death since of my crime. Why hath thy servant opportunity betray the hours thou gavest me to repose? Cancel my fortunes and enchain me to endless date of never-ending woes. Time's office is to find the hate of woes, to eat up errors by opinion bred, not spend the dowry of a lawful bed.
Time's glory is to calm contented kings, to unmask falsehood and bring truth to light, to stamp the seal of time in aged things, to wake the morn and sentinel the night, to wrong the wronger till he rendeth right, to ruinate proud buildings with thy hours, and smear that with dust their glittering golden towers, to fill with wormholes stately monuments, to feed oblivion with decay of things, to blot old books and alter their contents, to pluck the quills from ancient ravens' wings, to dry the old oak's sap and cherish springs, to spoil antiquities of hammered steel and turn the giddy round of fortune's wheel, to show the beldam daughters of her daughter, to make the child a man, the man a child, to slay the tiger that doth live by slaughter, to tame the unicorn and lion wild, to mock the subtle in themselves beguiled, to cheer the ploughman with increaseful crops, and waste huge stones with little water drops. Why work'st thou mischief in thy pilgrimage, unless thou couldst return to make amends? One poor retiring minute in an age would purchase thee 1,000 friends, lending him wit that to bad debtors lends. Oh, this dread night, wouldst thou 1 hour come back, I could prevent this storm and shun thy wrack. Thou ceaseless lackey to eternity, with some mischance cross Tarquin in his flight, devise extremes beyond extremity, to make him curse this cursed crimeful night, to let ghastly shadows his lewd eyes affright, and the dire thought of his committed evil shape every bush a hideous, shapeless devil, disturb his hours of rest with restless trances, afflict him in his bed with bedrid groans, let there bechance him pitiful mischances, to make him moan, but pity not his moans. Stone his
Stone.
harded hearts harder than stones, and let mild women to him loose their mildness, wilder to him than tigers in their wildness.
Let him have time to tear his curled hair. Let him have time against himself to rave. Let him have time of time's help to despair. Let him have time to live a loathed slave. Let him have time a beggar's arts to crave, and time to see one that by alms doth live, disdain to him, disdain scraps to give. Let him have time to see his friends, his foes, and merry fools to mock at him resort. Let him have time to mark how slow time goes, in time of sorrow, and how swift and short his time of folly and his time of sport. And ever let his unrecalling crime have time to wail the abusing of his time. O time, thou tutor both to good and bad, teach me to curse him that thou taughtest this ill, and at his own shadow let the thief run mad. himself seek every hour to kill. Such wretched hands, such wretched blood should spill. For who so base such an office have, as scandalous deathsman to so base a slave? The baser is he coming from a king, to shame his hope with deeds degenerate. The mightier man, the mightier is the thing that makes him honored or begets him hate. Greatest scandal waits on greatest state. The moon being clouded presently is mist, but little stars may hide them when they list. The crow may bathe his coal black wings in mire, and unperceived fly with the filth away. But if the like's white swan desire, the stain upon his silver gown will stay. Poor grooms are sightless night, king's glorious day. Gnats is upon every eye. Our idle words servants to shallow fools, unprofitable sounds, weak arbitrators. Busy yourselves in skill contenting schools. Debate where leisure serves with dull debaters. To trembling clients be your mediators. For me, I force not argument to straw, since that my case is past the help of law.
In vain I rail at opportunity, at time, at Tarquin, and uncheerful night. In vain I cavil with mine infamy. In vain I spurn on my confirmed despite. This helpless smoke of words doth me no right. The remedy indeed to do me good is to let forth my foul defiled blood. Poor hand, why quiverest thou at this decree? Honor thyself to rid me of the shame, for if I die, my honor lives in thee. But if I live, thou livest in my defame, since thou couldst not defend thy loyal dame, and wast afraid to scratch her wicked foe. Kill both thyself and her for yielding so. This sad from her bitumed couch she starteth to find some desperate instrument of death, but this no slaughterhouse, no tool imparteth to make more vengeful passage of her breath, which thronging through her lips so vanished, as smote from Aetna that in air consumes, or that which from discharged cannon fumes. In vain, quoth she, I live and seek in vain some happy means to end a hapless life. I feared by Tarquin's falchion to be slain, yet for the self same purpose seek a knife. But when I feared I was a loyal wife, so am I now. No, that cannot be. Of that true tribe hath Tarquin rifed me. Oh, that is gone for which I sought to live, and therefore now I need not fear to die. To clear the spot by death at least I give a badge of fame to slander's livery, a dying life to living infamy. Poor helpless help, the treasure stolen away, to burn the guiltless casket where it lay. Well, well, dear Coltane, thou shalt not know the stained task of violated troth. I will not wrong thy true affection so to flatter thee with an infringed oath. This bastard graft shall never come to growth. He shall not boast, nor who did thy stock pollute, that thou art doting father of his fruit, nor shall he smile at thee in secret thought, nor laugh with his companions at thy state. But thou shalt know thy interest was not bought basely with gold, but stolen from forth thy gate. For me, I am the mistress of my fate, and with my trespass never will dispense till life to death acquit my for first offense. I will not poison thee with my attaint, nor fold my fault in cleanly coined excuses. My sable ground of sin I will not paint to hide the truth of this false night's abuses. My tongue shall utter all, mine eyes like sloths, as from a mountain spring that feeds a dale, shall gush pure streams to plunge my impure tale.
By this lamenting Philomel had ended the well-tuned warble of her nightly sorrow, and solemn night with slow, sad gait descended to ugly hell, when lo, the blushing morrow lends light to all fair eyes that light will borrow. But cloudy Lucrece shames herself to see, and therefore still in night would cloistered be, revealing day through every cranny spies, and seems to point her out where she sits weeping, to whom she sobbing speaks, O eye of eyes, why priest thou through my window? Leave thy peeping, mock with thy tickling beams eyes that are sleeping. Brand not my forehead with thy piercing light, for day hath naught to do with what's done by night. Thus cavils she with everything she sees. True grief is fond and testy as a child, who, wayward once, his mood with naught agrees. Old woes, not infant sorrows, bear them mild. Continuance tames the one, the other wild, like an unpracticed swimmer plunging still with too much labor drowns for want of skill. So she, deep drenched in a sea of care, holds disputation with each thing she views, and to herself all sorrow doth compare, no object but her passion's strength renews. And as one shifts another straight ensues, sometimes her grief is dumb and hath no words, sometimes 'tis mad and too much talk affords. The little birds that tune their morning joy make her moans mad with their sweet melody. For mirth doth search the bottoms of annoy. Sad souls are slain in merry company. Grief best is pleased with grief's society. True sorrow, then, is feelingly suffised, when with like semblance it is sympathized. 'Tis double death to drown in ken of shore. He 10 times pines that pines beholding food. To see the salve doth make the wound ache more. Great grief grieves most at that would do it good.
Deep woes roll forth like a gentle flood, who being stopped, the bounding flap blanks o'erflows. Grief dallied with, nor law nor limit knows. You mocking birds, quoth she, your tunes entomb within your howl those swelling feathered breasts, and in my hearing be you mute and dumb. My restless discord loves no stops nor rests. A woeful hostess brooks not merry guests. Relish your nimble notes to pleasing ears, distressed like dumps when time is kept with tears. Come, Philomel, let's sink of ravishment, make thy sad groan in my dishevelled ear. As the dank earth weeps at my languishment, so I each sad strain will strain a tear, and with deep groans the diapason bear. For burden-wise I'll hum on Tarquin still, while thou on Tereus descants better skill. And whilst against the thorn thou bear'st thy part, to keep thy sharp woes waking, wretched I, to imitate thee well, against my heart will fix a sharp knife to affright my eye, who if it winks, shall thereupon fall and die. These means as frets upon an instrument shall tune our heartstrings to true languishment, and for poor bird thou singest not in the day, as shaming any eye should thee behold. Some dark deep desert seated from the way that knows not parching heat nor freezing cold will find it out, and there we will unfold to creatures stern sad tunes to change their kinds, since men prove beasts. Let beasts bear gentle minds, as the poor frighted deer that stands at gaze, wildly determining which way to fly, or one encompassed with a winding maze that cannot tread the way out readily. So with herself is she in mutiny, to live or die, which of the twain were better, when life is shamed and death reproaches debtor. To kill myself, quoth she, alack, what were it but with my body my poor soul's pollution? They that lose half with greater patience bear it than they whose whole is swallowed in confusion.
That mother tries a merciless conclusion, who having two sweet babes, when death takes one, will slay the other and be nurse to none. My body or my soul, which was the dearer? When the one pure, the other made divine, whose love of either to myself was nearer, when both were kept for heaven and Collatine. Ay me, the bark piled from the lofty pine, his leaves will wither, and his sap decay, so must my soul her bark being piled away. Her house is sacked, her quiet interrupted, her mansion battered by the enemy, her sacred temple spotted, spoiled, corrupted, grossly engirt with daring infamy. Then let it not be called impiety if in this blemished fort I make some hole through which I may convey this troubled soul. Yet die I will not till my Collatine hath heard the cause of my untimely death, that he may vow in that sad hour of mine revenge on him that made me stop my breath. My state blood to Tarquin I'll bequeath, as which by him tainted shall for him be spent, and as his due written my testament. My honor I bequeath unto the knife that wounds my body so dishonored. 'Tis honor to deprive dishonored life. The one will live, the other being dead. So of shame's ashes shall my fame be bred. For in my death I murder shameful scorn. My shame so dead, mine honor is new born. Dear Lord, of that dear jewel I have lost, what legacy shall I bequeath to thee? My resolution, love, shall be thy boast, by whose example thou revenged mayst be. How Tarquin must be used, read it in me. Myself thy friend will kill thyself thy foe, and for my sake serve thou false Tarquin so.
This brief abridgment of my will I make, my soul and body to the skies and ground, my resolution, husband, do thou take. Mine honour be the knives that make my wound, my shame be his that did my fame confound, and all my fame that lives disbursed be to those that live and think no shame of me. Thou Collatine shalt oversee this will. How was I overseen that thou shalt see it? My blood shall wash the scandor of mine ill. My life's foul deed, my life's fair end shall free it. Faint not, faint heart, but stoutly say so be it. Yield to my hand shall conquer thee. Thou dead, both die, and both shall victors be. This plot of death, when sadly she had laid and whipped the brownish pearl from her bright eyes, with untuned tongues she hoarsely calls her maid, whose swift obedience to her mistress hies. For fleet-winged duty with thought's feathers flies. Poor Lucrece cheeks unto her maid seem so, as winter meads when sun doth melt with snow. Her mistress she doth give demure good morrow, with soft slow tongue, true mark of modesty, and sorts a sad look to her lady's sorrow. For why her face wore sorrow's livery, but durst not ask, audaciously lie, why her two sons were cloud eclipsed so, nor why her fair cheeks overwashed with woe. But as the earth doth weep, the sun being set, each flower moistened like a melting eye, even so the maid with swelling drops can wet her silkered eyne in frost by sympathy of those fair suns set in her mistress' sky, who in a salt-waved ocean quench their light, which makes the wave weep like the dewy night. A pretty while those pretty creatures stand, like ivory conduits, coral cisterns filling. One justly weeps, the other takes in hand, no cause, but company of her drops spilling. Their gentle sex to weep are often willing, grieving themselves to guess at others' smarts, and then they drown their eyes or break their hearts.
Page,
Oh, page
136.
136.
I beg your pardon. I'm really sorry.
136.
Yes, I know. I'm coming right now. I
For
was
men have marble of the first line. That
where
was
men
I'll
have
cue you in. I'll cue you in, Michael. Grieving themselves to guess at others' smarts, and then they drown their eyes or break their hearts.
For men have marble, women waxen minds, and therefore are they formed as marble will. The weakest oppress, the impression of strange kinds is formed in them by force, by fraud, or skill. Then call them not the authors of their ill, no more than waxes shall be accounted evil, wherein it's stamped the semblance of a devil. Their smoothness, like a goodly champagne plain, lays open all the little worms that creep in men as in rough-grown grove remain, cave-keeping evils that obscurely sleep through crystal walls, each little mote will peep. Though men can cover crimes with bold, stern looks, poor women's faces are their own false books. No man inveigh against the withered flower, but child rough winter that the flower hath killed. Not that devoured, but that which doth devour is worthy blame. Oh, let it not be hilled. Poor woman's faults, that they are so fulfilled with men's abuses, those proud lords to blame, may make weak-made women tenants to their shame. The president whereof, in Lucretius' view, assailed by night with circumstances strong, of present death and shame that might ensue, by that her death to do her husband wrong. Such danger to resistance did belong, that dying fear, though all her body spread, and who cannot abuse a body dead? By this mild patience bid fair Lucretius speak to the poor counterfeit of her complaining. My girl, quoth she, on what occasion break those tears from thee that down thy cheeks are raining? If thou dost weep for grief of my sustaining, no, gentle wench, it small avails my mood. If tears could help, mine own would do me good. But tell me, girl, when went, and there shall stay till after a deep groan, hearken from hence. Madam, ere I was up, replied the maid, the more to blame my sluggard negligence.
yet with the fault I thus far can dispense. Myself was stirring ere the break of day, and ere I rose was Tarquin gone away. But lady, if your maid may be so bold, she would request to know your heaviness. Oh, peace, quoth Lucrece, if it should be told, the repetition cannot make it less, for more it is than I can well express. And that deep torture may I be called to hell, when more is felt than one hath power to tell. Go get me hither paper, ink, and pen, yet save that labor, for I have them here. What should I say? One of my husband's men, bid thou be ready by and by to bear a letter to my lord, my love, my dear. Bid him with speed prepare to carry it. The course, the cause craves haste, and it would soon be writ. Her maid is gone, and she prepares to write, first hovering over the paper with her quill. Concept and grief and eager combat fight. What wit sets down is blotted straight with will. This is too curious good, this blunt and ill. Much like a press of people at a door, throng her inventions, which shall go before. At last she thus begins, thou worthy lord, of that unworthy wife that greeteth thee. Health to thy person, next vouchsafe to afford, if ever love thy increase, thou wilt see. Some present speed to come and visit me, so I commend me from my house in grief. My woes are tedious, though my words are brief. Here folds, here folds she up the tenure of her woe, her certain sorrow writ uncertainly. By this short cedule Collating may know her grief, but not her grief's true quality. She dares not thereof make discovery, lest he should hold it her own gross abuse, ere she with blood had stained her stained excuse. Besides the life and feeling of her passion, she hoards to spend when he is by to hear her, when sighs and groan, tears may grace the fashion. Pardon me. Of her disgrace, the better so to clear her from that suspicion which the world might bear her. To shun this blot, she would not blot the letter with words till action might become them better. To see sad sights moves more than hear than told, for then the eye interprets through the air the heavy motion that it doth behold, when every part a part of woe doth bear. 'Tis but a part of sorrow that we hear. Deep sounds make lesser noise than shallow fords, and sorrow ebbs, being blown with wind of words. Her letter now is sealed, and on it writ, "At adieu to my lord was more than hast." The post attends, and she delivers it, charging the sorrow-faced groom to hie as fast as lagging follows before the northern blast. Speed more than speed, but dull and slow, she deems extremity still urges such extremes.
The homely villain curtsies to her low, and blushing on her with a steadfast eye, receives the scroll without or yea or no, and forth with bashful innocence doth hie. But they whose guilt within their bosoms lie imagine every eye beholds their blame. For Lucrece thought he blushed to see her shame. When Seely groom, God wot, it was a defect of spirit, life, and bold audacity. Such harmless creatures have a true respect to talk and deeds, while others saucily promise more speed, but do it leisurely. Even so, this pattern of the worn-out age pawned honest looks, but laid no words to gauge. His kindled duty kindled her mistrust, that two red fires in both their faces blazed. She thought he blushed, as knowing Tarquin's lust, and blushing with him, wistfully on him gazed. Her earnest eye did make him more amazed, the more she saw the blood his cheeks replenish, the more she thought he spied in her some blemish. But long she thinks till he return again, and yet the duteous vassal scarce is gone, the weary time she cannot entertain. For now 'tis stale to sigh, to weep and groan, so woe hath wearied woe. Moan, tired moan, that she her plaints a little while doth stay, pausing for means to mourn some newer way. At last she calls to mind where hangs a piece of skilful painting made for Priam's Troy, before the which is drawn the power of Greece for Helen's rape, the city to destroy, threatening cloud-kissing Ilion with annoy, which the conceited painter drew so proud, as heaven it seemed to kiss the turrets bowed. 1,000 lamentable objects there, in scorn of nature, art gave lifeless life. Many a drop seemed a weeping tear shed for the slaughtered husband by the wife. The red blood reeked to show the painter's strife, and dying eyes gleamed forth their ashy lights, like dying coals burnt out in tedious nights.
There might you see the laboring pioneer, begrimed with sweat, and smear it all with dust, and from the towers of Troy there would appear the very eyes of men through loopholes thrust, gazing upon the Greeks with little lust. Such sweet observance in this work was had, that one might see those far of eyes look sad. In great commanders' grace and majesty you might behold triumphing in their faces, in youth quick bearing and dexterity, and here and there the painter interlaces pale cowards, marching on with trembling paces, which heartless peasants did so well resemble that one would swear he saw them quake and tremble. In Ajax and Ulysses, oh, what art of physiognomy might one behold! The face of either ciphered either's heart. Their face, their manners most expressly told. In Ajax' eyes blunt rage and rigor rolled, but the mild glance that sly Ulysses lent showed deep regard and smiling government. There pleading might you see grave Nestor stand, as 'twere encouraging the Greeks to fight, making such sober action with his hand that it beguiled attention, charmed the sight. In speech it seemed his beard all silver white wagged up and down, and from his lips did fly the thin winding breath, which purled up to the sky. After him were a press of gaping faces, which seemed to swallow up his sound advice, all jointly listening, but with several graces, as if some mermaid did their ears entice, some high, some low. The painter was so nice. The scalps of many almost hid behind. To jump up higher seemed to mock the mind. Here one man's hand leaned on another's head, his nose being shadowed by his neighbor's ear. Here one being thronged bears back all bold and red, another smothered seems to pelt and swear, and in the rage such signs of rage they bear, as but for loss of nectar, golden words. It seemed they would debate with angry swords.
For much imaginary work was there, conceit deceitful, so compact, so kind, that for Achilles' image stood his spear, gripped in an armed hand, himself behind was left unseen, save to the eye of mind. A hand, a foot, a face, a leg, a head, stood for the whole to be imagined. And from the walls of strong besieged Troy, when their brave hope, bold Hector marched afield, stood many Trojan mothers sharing joy to see their youthful sons bright weapons wield, and to their hope they such odd action yield that through their light joy seemed to appear, like bright things stained, a kind of heavy fear. And from the strand of Dardan where they fought to Simway's ready banks, the red blood ran, whose waves to imitate the battle sought with swelling ridges, and the ranks began to break upon the galled shore and then retire again, till meeting greater ranks they join and shoot their famous Simway's banks. To this well-painted piece is Lucrece come, to find a face where all distress is stilled. Many she sees where cares have carved some, but none where all distress and dolour dwelled, till she despairing Hecuba beheld, staring on Priam's wounds with her old eyes, which bleeding under Epirus' proud foot lies. In her the painter had anatomized time's ruin, beauty's rack, and grim care's reign. Her cheeks with chops and wrinkles were disguised, of what she was no semblance did remain. Her blue blood changed to black in every vein, wanting the spring that those shrunk pipes had fed, showed life's imprisoned in a body dead. On this sad shadow, Lucrece spends her eyes, and shapes her sorrow to the beldam's woes, who nothing wants to answer her but cries, and bitter words to ban her cruel foes.
Angus, you're muted.
The painter was no god to lend her those, and therefore Lucrece swears he did her wrong to give her so much grief and not a tongue. Poor instrument, quoth she, without a sound I'll tune thy woes with my lamenting tongue, and drop sweet balm in Priam's painted wound, and rail on Pyrrhus that hath done him wrong, and with my tears quench Troy that burns so long, and with my knife scratch out the angry eyes of all the Greeks that are thine enemies, and show me the strumpet that began this stir, that with my nails her beauty I may tear. Thy heat of lust fond Paris did incur, this load of wrath that burning Troy did bear. Thy eye kindled the fire that burneth there, and here in Troy for trespass of thine eyes the sire, the son, the dam and daughter die. Why should the private pleasure of some one become the public plague of many more? Let sin alone committed light alone upon his head that hath transgressed so. Let guiltless souls be freed from guilty woe. For one's offence, why should so many fall? To plague of private sin in general. Lo, here weeps Hecuba, here Priam dies, for manly Hector faints, here Troilus sounds, here friend by friend in bloody channel lies. And friend to friend give unadvised wounds, and one man's lust these many lives confounds. Had doting Priam checked his son's desire, Troy had been bright with fame and not with fire. Here feelingly she weeps Troy's painted woes, for sorrow like a heavy hanging bell, one set on ringing with his own weight goes. Then little strength rings out the doleful knell. So Lucrece set a work, sad tales doth tell, to penciled pensiveness and coloured sorrow she lends them words, and she the looks doth borrow. She throws her eyes about the painting round, and who she finds forlorn she doth lament. At last she sees a wretched image bound, that piteous looks to Phrygian shepherds lent. His face, though full of cares, yet showed content. Onward to Troy with the blunt swains he goes, so mild that patience seemed to scorn his woes. In him the painter laboured with his skill to hide deceit and give the harmless show an humble gait. Calm looks, eyes wailing still, a brow unbent that seemed to welcome woe, cheeks neither red nor pale, but mingled so that blushing red no guilty instance gave, nor ashy pale, the fear that false hearts have. But like a constant and confirmed devil, he entertained a show, so seeming just, and therein so ensconced his secret evil, that jealousy itself could not mistrust, false creeping craft and perjury should thrust into so bright a day such black-faced storms, or blot with hell-born sin such saint-like forms.
The well-skilled workman this mild image drew for perjured Sinon, whose enchanting story the credulous old Priam after slew, whose words like wild fire burnt the shining glory of rich-built Ilion, that the skies were sorry and little stars shot from their fixed places when their glass fell wherein they viewed their faces. This picture she advised perused, and chid the painter for his wondrous skills, saying some shape in Sinon's was abused, so fair a form lodged not a mind so ill. And still on him she gazed, and gazing still, such signs of truth in his plain face she spied, that she concludes the picture was belied. It cannot be, quoth she, that so much guile she would have said, can lurk in such a look. But Tarquin's shape came in her mind the while, and from her tongue can lurk from cannot took. It cannot be, she in that sense forsook, and turned it thus. It cannot be, I find, but such a face should bear a wicked mind. For even as subtle Sinon here is painted, so sober, sad, so wary, and so mild, as if with grief or travail he had fainted, to me came Tarquin armed, so beguiled with outward honesty, but yet defiled with inward vice. As Priam him did cherish, so did I Tarquin so my Troy did perish. Look, look how listening Priam wets his eyes to see these borrowed tears that Sinon sheeds. Priam, who, why art thou old and yet not wise? For every tear he falls, a Trojan bleeds. His eye drops fire, no water hence proceeds. These round clear pearls of his that move thy pity are balls of quenchless fire to burn thy city. Such devils steal effects from light as hell. For Sinon in his fire doth quake with cold, and in that cold, hot burning fire doth dwell. These contraries such such unity do hold, only to flatter fools and make them bold. So Priam's trustful Sinon's tears doth flatter, that he finds means to burn his Troy with water.
Here all enraged, such passion her assails, that patience is quite beaten from her breast. She tears the senseless Sinon with her nails, comparing him to that unhappy guest, whose deed hath made herself detest. At last she smilingly with this gives o'er. Fool, fool, quoth she, his wounds will not be sore. Thus ebbs and flows the current of her sorrow, and time does weary time with her complaining. She looks for night, and then she longs for morrow, and both she thinks too long with her remaining. Short time seems long, and sorrow sharp sustaining. Though we be heavy, yet it seldom sleeps, and they that watch see time, how slow it creeps, which all this time hath overslipped her thought, that she with painted image hath spent, being with the feeling of her own grief brought, by deep surmise of others' detriment, losing her woes in shows of discontent. It easeth some, though none it ever cured, to think their dower others have endured. But now the mindful messenger come back, brings home his lord in other company, who finds his Lucrece clad in mourning black, and round about her tear disdained eye, blue circles streamed like rainbows in the sky. These water galls in her dim element foretell new storms to those already spent, which when her sad beholding husband saw, amazedly in her sad face he stares. Her eyes, though sodden tears, look red and raw, her lively color killed with deadly cares. He hath no power to ask her how she fears. Both stood like old acquaintance in a trance, met far from home, wondering each other's chance. At last he takes her by the bloodless hand, and thus begins, what uncouth ill event hath thee befallen, that thou dost trembling stand? Sweet love, what spite hath thy fair color spent? Why art thou thus attired in this discontent? Unmask, dear, dear, this moody heaviness, and tell thy grief, that we may give redress. 3 times with sighs she gives her sorrows fire, ere once she can discharge one word of woe. At length addressed to answer his desire, sheer modesty prepares to let them know her honor is taken prisoner by the foe. While Collatine and his consorted lords with sad attention long to hear her words, and now this pale swan in her watery nest begins the sad dirge of her certain ending. Few words, quoth she, shall fit the trespass best, where no excuse can give the fault of mending. In me, woes and words are now depending, and my lament would be drawn out too long to tell them all with one poor tired tongue. Then be this all the task it hath to say, dear husband, in the interest of thy bed, a stranger came and on that pillow lay, where thou wast wont to rest thy wearily head, and what wrong else may be imagined by foul enforcement might be done to me. From that, alas, thy Lucrece is not free.
For in the dreadful deed of dark midnight, with shining falchion in my chamber came a creeping creature with a flaming light, and softly cried, awake, thou Roman dame, and entertain my love. Else lasting shame on thee and thine this night I will inflict, if thou my love's desire do contradict. For some hard-favored groom of thine, quoth he, unless thou yoke thy liking to my will, I'll murder straight, and then I'll slaughter thee, and swear I found you where you did fulfill the loathsome act of lust, and so did kill the lechers in their deed. This act will be my fame and thy perpetual infamy. With this I did begin to start and cry, and then against my heart he set his sword, swearing unless I took all patiently, I should not live to speak another word. So should my shame still rest upon record, and never be forgot in mighty Rome, the adulterated death of Lucrece and her groom. Mine enemy was strong, my poor self weak, and far the weaker with so strong a fear, my bloody judge forbode my tongue to speak. No rightful plea might plead for justice there. His scarlet lust came evidence to swear that my poor beauty had purloined his eyes, and when the judge is robbed, the prisoner dies. Oh, teach me how to make mine own excuse, or at the least this refuge let me find, though my gross blood be stained with this abuse. Immaculate and spotless is my mind that was not forced, that never was inclined to accessory yielding, but still pure, doth in her poisoned closet yet endure.
Lo, here the hopeless merchant of this loss, with head declined, and voice dammed up with woe, with sad set eyes, and wretched arms across, from lips new waxen pale, begins to blow the grief away that stops his answer so. But wretched as he is, he strives in vain. When he breathes out, his breath drinks up again, as through an arch the violent roaring tide outruns the eye that doth behold his haste. Yet in the eddy boundeth in his pride back to the strait that first forced him on so fast. In rage sent out, recalled in rage being past, even so his sighs, his sorrows make us all to push grief on, and back the same grief draw. His speechless woe of his poor she attendeth, and his untimely frenzy doth awaketh. Dear Lord, thy sorrow to my sorrow lendeth another power. No flood by raining slaketh my woe too sensibly. Thy passion maketh more feeling painful. Let it then suffice to drown on woe one pair of weeping eyes, and for my sake when I might charm thee so, for she that was thy Lucrece, now attend me, by suddenly revenged upon my foe. Thine, mine, his own. Suppose thou dost defend me from what is past, the help that thou shalt lend me comes all too late. Yet let the traitor die, for sparing justice feeds iniquity. But ere I name him, you fair lords, quoth she, speaking to those that came with Collatine, shall plight your honorable faiths to me with swift pursuit to venge this wrong of mine. For 'tis a meritorious fair design to chase injustice with revengeful arms. Knights by their oaths should right poor ladies' harms. At this request, with noble disposition, each present lord began to promise aid, as bound in knighthood to her imposition, longing to hear the hateful foe bewrayed.
But she that yet her sad task hath not said, the protestation drops. Oh, speak, quoth she, how may this forced stain be wiped from me? What is the quality of my offence, being constrained with dreadful circumstance? May my pure mind with the foul act dispense my low declined honor to advance. May any terms acquit me from this chance? The poisoned fountain clears itself again, and why not I from this compelled stain? With this they all at once began to say, her body stained, her mind untainted clears, while with a joyless smile she turns away the face, that map which deep impression bears of hard misfortune, carved it in with tears. No, no, quoth she, no dame hereafter living by my excuse shall claim excuses giving. Here with a sigh as if her heart would break, she throws forth Tarquin's name. He, she says, but more than he, her poor tongue could not speak, till after many accents and delays, untimely breathings, sick and short essays, she utters this, he, fair lords, 'tis he that guides this hand to give this wound to me. Even here she sheathed in her harmless breast a harmful knife, that thence her soul unsheathed, that blow did bail it from the deep unrest of that polluted prison where it breathed. Her contrite sighs unto the clouds bequeathed her winged sprite, and through her wounds doth fly, lives lasting date from cancelled destiny. Stone still, astonished with this deadly deed, stood Collatine and all his lordly crew, till Lucrece, father that beholds her bleed, himself on her self-slaughtered body threw. And from the purple fountain Brutus drew the murderous knife, and as it left the place, her blood and poor revenge held it in chase. And bubbling from her breast, it doth divide in two slow rivers, that the crimson blood circles her body in on every side, who like a late sacked island vastly stood, bare and unpeopled, in this fearful flood.
Some of her blood still pure and red remained, and some looked black, and that false Tarquin stained. About the mourning and congealed face of that black blood a watery wriggle grows, which seems to weep upon the tainted place. And ever since, as pitying Lucrece woes, corrupted blood some watery token shows. And blood untainted still doth red abide, blushing at that which is so putrefied. Daughter, dear daughter, old Lucretius cries, that life was mine which thou hast here deprived. If in the child the father's image lies, where shall I live now Lucrece is unlived? What wast thou not to this end from me derived? If children predecease progenitors, we are their offspring, and they none of ours. Poor broken glass I often did behold in thy sweet semblance, in my old age, new born. But now that fair fresh mirror, dim and old, shows me a bare-boned death by time outworn. Oh, from thy cheeks my image thou hast torn, and shrivered all the beauty of my glass, that I no more can see what once I was. Oh, time, cease thou thy course, and last no longer. If they surcease to be that thou shouldst survive, shall rotten death make conquest of the stronger, and leave the faltering feeble souls alive? The old bees die, the young possess their hive. Then live, sweet Lucrece, live again and see thy father die, and not thy father thee. By this starts Collatine as from a dream, and bids Lucretia give his sorrow place, and then in key-cold Lucrece bleeding stream he falls, and bathes the pale fear in his face, and counterfeits to die with her a space, till manly shame bids him possess his breath, and live to be revenged on her death.
The deep vexation of his inward soul has served a dumb arrest upon his tongue, who, mad that sorrow should his use control, or keep him from heart-easing words so long, begins to talk, but through his lips do throng weak words, so thick come in his poor heart's aid that no man could distinguish what he said. Yet some time Tarquin was pronounced plain, but through his teeth, as if the name he tore this windy tempest till it blow up rain, held back his sorrows, tied to make it more. At last it rains, and busy winds give o'er. Then son and father weep with equal strife, who should weepest most for daughter or for wife. The one doth call her his, the other his, yet neither may possess the claim they lay. The father says, she's mine, oh mine she is. Replies her husband, do not take away my sorrow's interest. Let no mourners say, he weeps for she was only mine, and only must be wailed by Collatine. Oh, quoth Lucretius, I did give that life which she too early and too late hath spilled. Woe, woe, quoth Collatine, was my wife. I owed her, and 'tis mine that she has killed. My daughter and my wife with clamors filled the dispersed air with who holding Lucretia's life answer their cries, my daughter and my wife. Brutus, who plucked the knife from Lucretia's side, seeing such emulation in their woe, began to clothe his wit in state and pride, bearing his in Lucretia's wound his folly show. He with the Romans was esteemed so, as sealing jeering idiots are with kings for sportive words and uttering foolish things. But now he throws that shallow habit by, wherein deep policy did him disguise, and arm his long hid wits advisedly, to check the tears in Collatine's eyes.
Thus, wronged Lord of Rome, quoth he, arise. Let my unsounded self suppose the fool, now set the long experienced wit to school. Why, Collatine, is woe the cure for woe? Do wounds help wounds, or grief help grievous deeds? Is it revenge to keep thyself a blow for his foul act, by whom the fair wife bleeds? Such childish humor from weak mind proceeds. Thy wretched wife mistook the matter so, to slain herself that should have slain her foe. Courageous Roman, do not steep thy heart in such relenting dew of lamentations, but kneel with me and help to bear thy part, to rouse our Roman gods with invocations, that they would suffer these abominations, since Rome herself in them doth stand disgraced, by her strong arms from forth her fair streets chased, now by the Capitol that we adore, and by this chaste blood so unjustly stained, by heaven's fair sun that breeds the fat earth's store, by all our country rights in Rome maintained, and by chaste Lucrece, soul that late complained her wrongs to us, and by this bloody knife. Pardon me, this just got stuck. Whoop, whoop, go away. By this her wrongs to us, and by this bloody knife we will avenge the death of this true wife. This said, he struck his hand upon his breast, and kissed the fatal knife to end his vow, and to his protestation urged the rest, who wondering at him did his words allow. Then joy to lead to the ground their knees they bow, and that vow which Brutus made before he doth again repeat, and that they swore when they had sworn to this advised doom, they did conclude to bear dead Lucrece thence, to show her bleeding body through Rome, and so to publish Tarquin's foul offense, which being done with speedy diligence, the Romans plausibly did give consent to Tarquin's everlasting banishment. The end.
So big deal, the rapist gets banished. That's it, huh?
Well, in his family, his entire line.
Gets banished
Yeah.
for him being the rapist.
And
He was a prince.
He was king, and he was overthrown.
All right.
And they established a new government.
Mm-hmm.
But he does go on a bit.
Yes.
They all go on a bit, and then they get this.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. All this.
That people have got to pay more attention to the adjectival ed on the end of adjectives.
Did I
Because
miss a lot of those?
if you don't, you screw up the meter.
Did I do that a lot?
Delivered. If it's deliver apostrophe D, then it's delivered. If it's deliver ED, it's most
Deliberate.
likely delivered. And that gives you the meter. Because if you
Right.
ignore that, you screw up the meter. And this is very tightly in verse. I mean, you can feel it as you go through. You say a word and suddenly you find you're a syllable lost at the end. It means you've screwed up on an earlier word. It's kind of important because there are rules to Shakespearean writing. I mean, some are odd and weird, and there are a lot of loonies on the fringe who have their own ideas. But within it, for example, if it ends, if a line ends and there's no punctuation, there are those who would say it's still the end of a line, and that imposes a beat.
No.
Well, you may be living in a different world, Eleanor, but for the majority of Shakespeare scholars, if
No,
it
he's right. This is what they taught at the Actors Institute.
absolutely, and what
But
it means, it
yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean you have to take a beat. It doesn't mean you have to make a pause, but what it generally means is that the next sentence or phrase or key words are need special emphasis.
I was so concerned
That's
about just
fine.
making
It's
making
making a pause that I dislike.
Well,
no, that
you
pause
talk
is
about
part of it.
Derek
That
Jack.
was what the pause is part of the beat. And I know I didn't pay attention because I was just
Well,
kind
yeah, you get to the end of the line,
yeah.
and you suddenly think, "Shut!
Did I do that a lot today? Did
I've
I
run
wasn't
out.
even
I've
aware.
run out of
Yeah,
beats, and I've
right.
still got one more I need to find from somewhere." And then you realize, oh crap! I missed a beat earlier when I should have emphasized that.
I probably do that all the time in these readings because I haven't taken the time to study the text. I mean,
Well,
even
I know
a lot of the plays.
it's the problem with reading, doing cold readings of
Right.
Shakespeare. You get caught
Midsummer Night's
halfway through.
Dream is a perfect example too.
Yeah, yeah. But the problem is to do this kind of stuff, you've got to keep a beat and a half of head ahead of yourself. The
Mm.
other one that always upsets me is that you got a word LIV apostrophe ST. A word like that, people will say livest. That's not right. You're putting an extra syllable in there. The
Right.
word is livest.
List.
And then you keep the meter, but the number of people who actually say livest, and then they get to the end of the line and they find they've got an extra beat hanging off the end there. Um, we might have to have a session with Paul on how you pronounce a lot of these things, but it's fairly important. And if you feel the meter, and I know it's hard because you have to be working sort of a line and a half ahead of yourself to be able to do it. And that's not easy to do. But, you can get there if you work on it.
Well, if you read it in advance, best.
No, even when you're
All
reading
right.
it live, you can still do it if you got your wits about you.
Yeah.
You
Let,
play it.
let's go on to the Phoenix and the Turtle.
Oh God, more.
Okay, I will
I don't
opt
know
out
this.
of reading this one, but I'll be listening. Okay?
The Phoenix and the Turtle. Let's see if I can find this. Hold on.
Okay, this would be me, and I believe I would start on 169.
167.
Okay, 167 is
Yeah.
the title page.
I don't know if you need to do that.
Oh,
No.
yes, we do.
Well, you do
Well,
it.
go ahead, Eleanor. I would rather start 169 when we get to it.
Mhm. Well, I'll do it, but I want to be able to do some of the poem too. Okay,
Nah.
Love's Martyr, or Rosaline's Complaint, allegorically shadowing the truth of love in the constant fate of the phoenix and turtle, a poem interlaced with much variety and rarity, now first translated out of the venerable Italian Torquato Tagliano by Robert Chester, with the true legend of famous King Arthur, the last of the nine worthies, being the first essay of the new British poet, collected out of diverse authentical records. To those are added some new compositions of several modern writers, whose names are subscribed as their several works upon the first subject, viz., the Phoenix and the Turtle. Mar. Mutare Dominum non potus liber notum. London, imprinted for EB 1601. Hereafter follow diverse poetical essays on the former subject, viz., the turtle and phoenix, done by the best and chiefest of our modern writers, with their names subscribed to their particular works never before extant, and now first consecrated by them all generally, to the love and merit of the true noble knight Sir John Salisbury, dignum laude virum musavetus mori. Let the bird of loudest lay on the sole Arabian tree herald sad and trumpet be, to whose sound chaste wings obey. But thou shrieking harbinger, foul precursor of the fiend, augur of the fever's end, to this troop come thou not near. From the session interdict every fowl of tyrant wing, save the eagle feathered king. Keep the obsequy so strict, let the priest in surplice white that defunctive music can be the deaf divining squan, lest the requiem lack his right, and thou treble-dated crow, that thou sable gender makest, with the breath thou givest and takest, mongst our mourners shalt thou go. Here the anthem doth commence, love and constancy is dead, Phoenix and the eternal fled in a mutual flame from hence. So they loved, as love in twain had the essence but of one, two distincts, division none. Number there in love was slain, hearts remote, yet not asunder, distance and no space was seen twixt this turtle and his queen, but in them it were a wonder.
So between them love did shine, that the turtle saw his right, flaming in the phoenix sight. Either was the other's mine. Property was thus appalled that the self was not the same. Single nature's double name, neither two nor one was called. Reason in itself confounded saw division grow together, to themselves yet either neither, simple were so well compounded, that it cried, how true a twain seemeth this concordant one. Love hath reason, reason none, if what parts can so remain. Whereupon it made this threen, to the phoenix and the dove, co-supremes and stars of love, as chorus to their tragic scene. Jennifer, I'm going to give you the three notes because that's one nice unit.
Okay. Venus. Beauty, truth, and rarity, grace and all simplicity, here enclosed in cinders lie. Death is now the phoenix nest, and the turtle's loyal breast to eternity doth rest. Leaving no posterity, 'twas not their infirmity, it was buried chastity. Truth may seem, but cannot be, beauty bride, but 'tis not she, truth and beauty buried be. To this urn let those repair that are either true or fair, for these dead birds sigh a prayer.
Oh, the birdies.
William Shakespeare.
Ishkabo the birdies.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So that was a nice ode to the birds.
Yeah.
I've heard what it's a puzzle poem or there's a mystery about the poem that people are intrigued by, but I honestly don't know what the mystery is supposed to be. I guess it's how something could be both two and one at the same time. I think that's what they're referring to.
Two and one at the same time, meaning what, the birds?
Yeah, their love kind of mingles them into one being, and yet they are still seen as two.
Soulmates.
Yeah. Yeah, they
It's
loved as
fun.
the
That
other
was
twin.
interesting reading these plays. I was wandering around some of them and listening to it, but I there's a lot loaded in every little stanza of these plays.
Mhm.
There's something very loaded here.
But
Well,
this seems to relate to the poem before because it says, death is now the phoenix nest and the turtle's loyal breast to eternity. Wait, I just see. Oh, it was married, leaving no posterity. 'Twas not their infirmity. It was married chastity. Truth may seem, but cannot be. Beauty brag, but 'tis not she. Truth and beauty buried be. To this urn let those repair that are either true or fair. For these dead birds sign a pair. I don't know. It seems to be somehow related to everybody killing themselves and cheating and raping and stuff somewhere or other.
I was going to say, because both of those plays are about each other overthrowing each other's will. One is the first play, she's to him and he to her. This one, maybe it's
well,
balance.
well, one of the things you were saying before about they're so tightly packed. All of these narrative poems are very tightly packed, and I had been reading how if you wanted exposure to a Shakespeare play, you'd go watch it. But if you wanted exposure to any of the poems, you'd ask somebody to write you a copy, and they would hand scribe it and hand it to you, and you would take it somewhere and study it. And I think that it's a very enriching experience to sit and read sonnets or narrative poems, even if nobody else is in the room and even if you're not reading it out loud, there's so much to explore there. Whereas I can't do that with the plays. I have to watch them or hear them somewhere.
Oh, I like to read the plays. I've like this stuff is like my mind goes off. It's so long and but I like to read it loudly. But plays, Shakespeare plays, I actually when I sit down and I said, oh God, I'm going to have to read Henry the Ogre, and yet I start getting into it. I find him more easily read than the poems, but the rhythm is different. In the poems, you have to really he overlaps a lot. I notice sometimes where I think I'm talking from the male's point of view, but I'm really talking from her point of view, and then they're both saying the same thing because they both
Yes,
feel
that's
the
what I
same.
loved about it.
Yeah, I got confused. I said, "Who am I? Am I her right now, or am I him right now?" Because they're both being painful about what they've done, what he's raped her and she's been raped, and it was like you could get if you haven't really studied it, which I didn't because I've been working on other things. It was like I didn't know who I was after a while.
But I think that's his intent in writing these plays too,
Right,
and
right,
these
right, right,
poems,
right,
is
right.
that you can't tell from one moment one is speaking and then the other speaking and then they're both speaking, which is the narrator. And
Right, right,
yeah,
right.
no, I think that's
It
brilliant.
was it was interesting, but then after before I said, I didn't know what the hell I was saying there, and I realized I have to go back. I wrote down. I considered what pages was that because I have to go look at that again because you just said the narrator, right? Because I could right. So the narrator actually is speaking through both of them at once.
The narrator
I
is.
think we're also confusing a contemporary audience, which is basically a stupid audience, with the audience that existed in Elizabethan times, which was a much more aware audience. Uh, I mean, people in Elizabethan times and both the 17th century and the 18th century could go and watch a play and they could write letters to their family back home, quoting huge chunks of text because they remembered it. We don't do that. We are an instant society. Something flashes across our vision and we hear it and we think, oh, that's cool. But then we forget it all.
We
Well, I
also,
have intelligent friends. Some of them, they've been watching us. If they can't watch us, they watch us on YouTube. And
Oh,
my
poor them.
girlfriend's interested. She really likes Shakespeare. They have it on a train from Santa Fe to Albuquerque. She used to take the train back and forth, and people would do Shakespeare on it. But she like pays attention. So there are people out there who do pay attention and do.
Yeah, but they're a very limited number. The vast majority of the American audience and the British audience as well really don't have the ability to focus enough to follow it all. I mean, I'm an actor and I've been an actor for about 60 years, but have, I can't remember the last time I ever read a play. To me,
Really?
it only works if it's on its feet.
But you were going
Uh,
to read that Leonard Dunsany play and get
so
back. You were
yeah,
going,
but I get through bits of it, but then you have to think. I If I'm going to read it, I have to start thinking of it on its feet and how it works in a stage setting.
Well, you
Otherwise,
can still remember some monologues from your acting days, right? I can still remember some things.
I always found that
A little bit if I
if I'm not going to do something for ever again, it's gone within 2 days. If
I
I'm
can
going to
still
be
remember.
doing it again, or if I'm going to be using the monologue, then yes, the show I was in where I met my wife, I still remember the opening
Alive.
monologue because I've used it
Right.
as an audition piece.
Right.
But I was looking through my resume the other day and looking through all the list of things I've done. Some of them I can't even remember doing them.
I know.
I have no idea where they were.
Really?
I'm looking back thinking, God,
Really?
when did I do that? Did I really do that? And then I found by dredging through some old archives, I thought, oh God, I was in that, and it's not in my resume because I completely forgot about it. It a play is a play. It happens. You work with the audience, then it's gone. Sorry, I mean that's just me.
Well, you read so beautifully. Everybody just listening, everybody read so beautifully. It was really, you
Well,
know,
Question. I
it's
got
very
another
difficult to avoid being caught up in the language, to
yeah.
being caught by the
Yeah.
rhythms, by being caught by the measures. Um, but it is true that, and I think Paul would probably agree, that there are a number of rules built into Shakespeare's punctuation.
course, but
Punct,
got to give ourselves a break because we
a
just
colon
reading.
in many ways is almost equivalent to a full stop, but it's not quite. Um, when do you break? When do you focus on the next piece? When do you focus on the beginning of the next line? The
Diphthong.
punctuation can often tell you this beginning of this next line is very important. You gotta hit it. And you rely on the punctuation for that. And if you don't follow it, if you don't follow the line breaks and you don't follow the colons and you don't follow the commas,
Well,
some
that
are
takes
continuing.
practice. We're all reading here cold.
Right.
The only way to really do this thing well is that if each person was told, well, you're going to do this section and we're all going to do it next week, and this is your little pile. And then you have to really study that pile. Today, we didn't know which or what or where.
No, but if you follow the rules of punctuation, you can get it.
Yeah, it's
You
hard to
don't,
get this
yeah,
stuff
I mean,
cold.
yeah, you're not told in
This story
advance.
is hard. That's a hard, this particular story is hard because they go
Well,
all over,
they're
they
all
go to
hard.
Rome.
Yeah, they're always hard,
Yeah.
but it depends how actively involved you are. If you're just saying the words, then screw it. You're not going to get anywhere. You
Right.
have,
I have a question for you, Angus, because
oh God.
several several times during the poems, there was a line beginning with quotation and an I, and then a capital letter in the
You'd
next
have to
word.
ask Paul about that because those are taken from the original text that he got hold of. I wondered about that myself, Shelley.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what to do.
It
There
there
were
almost
was
some
looks
I
like
one
can't.
that was in the middle of the word women, and the C thingy was an EN. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it is printer shorthand because they were running out of text. They
I
were run.
almost I almost thought with the quote I that it meant indent because what was after it was a normal word. It wasn't
Yeah,
that
it,
it
a lot of those
Oh,
look
the thing
perfectly
with the
reasonable.
eye squiggle is also like en.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean indent, right?
and some of those are printer marks, and some of them are actually printer abbreviations. All the ones where it's a Y with something over it, with an umlaut over it, and you don't, and you have to keep your wits about you when you see those coming up. Is it thou, thee, thy, or then? It, you because when Paul produces these scripts, he's producing them as direct, exact copies. Um, Somebody was talking about, oh, you did, Shelia, when you were talking about they used text which had bits in quotations.
Mhm.
Those are editorial comments that some editor has gone through it and decided, well, so and so is speaking at this time, I'll put that in quotes, and someone's speaking.
Uh-huh.
I tend to distrust editors because so many of them don't know what the hell they're doing. They're academics who sit in ivory towers and who impose their view on what it is. Um, Let the text take you, and usually you can feel within the text when somebody else is speaking because it's written through the language that he's put in.
I
I
have a
think
question, a technical question. I got a couple of unstable notes tonight on my computer, my internet.
Really?
Was it shaky? Did it work today? No problem?
Most of the
Sounded
time it was
fine.
fine. There were a couple of blips, but they were very, very minor. I wouldn't worry about it
All
much.
right. No, because we took that thing out, that extra thing out. I sometimes think it might be when I'm touching my keyboard. That might throw it off. If
Could
it
be
just
anything. I mean,
yeah.
I have the same trouble here that my broadband normally works okay, but every so often it hiccups.
Because you guys were freezing a couple of times to me when I wasn't speaking. It was very frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's extremely irritating, and it's normally because most of the broadband providers are putting too many because it's cheaper. They put too many people on the same line,
Mm.
and there's nothing you can do
Supposedly
about
they
it.
just upgraded it and improved it.
Well,
I'd
no,
be
that's
different.
that's what they say, but
Yeah,
they
right.
haven't really,
Yeah.
I used to at one point, once I'd moved out of downtown Manhattan, I lived on 116th Street,
Yeah, you
and
tell me.
about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on a Friday, suddenly my internet speed would crash. And it
Was it-
would go down to be no faster than a dial-in modem. And sometimes it would actually stop completely. And it's because all the guys had come home from work
Right.
and were going on the web and streaming shit, and I was stuck.
Well, that was when back
There-
in the 90s, though, right? That was before things.
No, that was 28, 29. I mean, 116th Street is what, Spanish Harlem?
Yeah.
And the major companies didn't give a shit about Spanish Harlem.
It's actually Columbia University.
I used to work in
A
theaters.
little
I
bit
used to
south
work
of
with
that.
groups up there
Oh,
in
you're talking about the east
116th
side,
Street.
east 100.
East side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Right. Oh, no, yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
just didn't care. You could
They
see
didn't
it with a
care.
bus. You could see it with a bus service
Oh,
in
so that's what
Manhattan.
did you live around? What's that little street called? It's Pleasant Place, it's called or something? My friend moved up there, like a
Well, I
hundred
used to live on
Pleasant Place. He lived.
86th Street, which
No, but
was
this was up
deep
in
in
the
the
upper,
heart of the
right.
upper Jewish district. And there, the bus service was great.
Hmm.
The broadband was usually pretty good. When I
Yorkville.
moved up to 116th Street, the bus service went down the tubes. The
Oh, I
internet
know. I
service
tried to
went
get a
down the
friend
tubes
to a friend
because
there.
they
Yeah.
were, they had no power. And the companies didn't care less about them. So
Yeah.
I
I didn't
I
even
have
know
to
about
leave.
that area.
Bye
Yeah.
bye. I'm sorry, but I have to run. So
okay,
Okay.
enjoy the
good
rest
to
of
see
your
you again,
day.
Shelia.
It was
I have
wonderful being a part of this.
Yeah, it was
It
fun.
was
Thank
fun.
it
you.
was
Thank
Thank
fun.
you
you
all
all.
so
Thank you
much.
all. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
this
can't
call.
listen
Okay.
because I'm
Okay. All
another
right.
end delivering
Bye.
mail. But really great job, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
London, New York, Texas, where else? Does that
Guess
cover
that's it.
everybody?
Yeah,
And
I
the
think
mail
so.
service.
Well, I'm in New Jersey, but I didn't really do much today.
London.
Oh.
But
Well, you read the introduction at the beginning of Venus and Adonis.
yes, I did one little thing, but then it's like trying to get through with all of this rain. But
How
Have you
hard
got
is it
rain
coming
there?
down where you
Oh,
are,
God.
Paul?
Yeah, a lot of rain.
Well, that means we're going to get it in about a week's time.
I was getting it this last week.
I thought we get it from you. You get it from
No,
us?
no, it moves towards the east.
And up the
So
coast.
at the moment, we've got the sunshine that you had last week.
So we have miserable weather here today
Oh,
and
Yeah.
tomorrow. It's awful. But
All
Monday
right.
is nice. Monday is going to be
Unless there are
72.
any other things people want to say about the poems, I'm going to stop the live stream and the
Okay.
Oh,
recording.
God,
the
yeah.
live stream.